8 a.m. Central European summertime in Japan, and already introduced a few initiatives, projects, companies fighting food waste and loss. Then we jumped over to Rome and had an Italian session with our founder, Sara Rovesi, and the Food Alchemist team in Rome, with all of our partners representing the European Commission in Italy, including the E-learning Academy of Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations, Zero Waste Campaign, Waste Watcher, Last Minute Market, and the FICO Foundation. Now, what is this event for? We celebrate the very first International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste. I am very happy to see our climate shapers being represented throughout the day. Who are these climate shapers? So with FAO, we are organizing boot camps. And this summer, for example, due to the given circumstances, we launched the very first digital version of it. And I am super happy to introduce you one of our graduates, Arina Zuchte, who is dialing in from India. And well, actually, without me talking too much, I would just hand over the stage to her so she can introduce the other guests on the panel and introduce the project, what they have been working on together. And yeah, the stage is yours for the next 25 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm a chef and a mixologist based in Mumbai, India, and I've been working towards helping consumers and restaurants and other food establishments reduce food waste in their operations or from their kitchen till possible and try and fit it back into their menus. I have with me Pankaj Shah and Sumit Gambhir. Both of them are hospitality professionals based in Mumbai, and they've been part of the industry for over a decade now, and they've been at the forefront of a lot of new concepts introduced in the city, be it in terms of menu or cuisines or products. So we had done a project throughout 2019 and a little bit of 2020 till all of us had to be locked in, where we wanted to show people that even mainstream conventional restaurants and bars can be sustainable without compromising on any other level. So I'd like to talk to them and also give everybody an idea of how food waste can work for your business and doesn't have to be looked at as a loss. So I'm going to share my screen here. There we go. So food waste is always looked at, probably pre-consumption, like at the farm level, or even post-consumption or at the consumption level, at the supermarkets, or in the form of leftover food that hasn't been eaten or consumed. But we often forget that in-between stage during preparation or during cooking, that is what kind of gets overlooked at times. So that's what I wanted to, shed a light on, that there are lots of various stages where we can control food waste and food loss. So again, the whole idea is to make food waste an advantage instead of considering it a loss. And the waste can be used to create additional income for a business as opposed to ending up in the trash. So the idea is to remove the negative connotation that comes along with the word food waste or food loss and look at it as an ingredient for a chef or a mixologist to create something out of it. So the idea of doing that menu, or even the work that we've been doing all these years, is to remove the word waste from food waste and just look at it as food. So I'd like Sumit to talk about the Pantry Cafe a little bit before we kind of go into the menu side of it.
Yeah. So the Pantry was started 10 years ago in Kala Ghoda, which is a lovely sort of area very close to a lot of monuments, a lot of museums, a lot of art cafes. And we started off as a cafe with a lot of the food, a lot of comfort food that we grew up eating, and we look forward to: pancakes, waffles, etc. Over a period of time, we realized a lot of ingredients that we used at the cafe were used only for one dish or a few dishes, and we did see a lot of wastage and spoilage in these recipes. So eventually, we had this conversation. Me and Arina met, and we actually had a conversation about trying to see if There can be multi-utilization in a creative way, and trying to use a little more about, her philosophy in life, and a little bit about, what she's really, really passionate about. We sometimes do this at home a lot. A part of Indian culture is to genuinely save and, try and use as much as possible. And we were trying to see if we could do that at the outlet level, at the cafe level as well. And that's why we worked on a menu. Arina and us worked on a menu to try and see if every piece of a vegetable, of a fruit, could be used in some sort of way, where it could become the star of a dish. And that's when we came up with the sustainable menu, where we worked on the peels of the carrots to use it for a really nice dip. We used the peels of oranges and pomegranates to try and make a detox tea, which became a bestseller. And even after the menu ended, it stayed on the menu, and now we're selling it during this lockdown period. We've been selling it in little containers, and it's been really well appreciated. Beetroot peels, using them, for some, for certain dishes as well. There you go. There's some lovely pictures that we've taken here. So I'd like Arina to talk a little more about about the dishes.
So the idea of this menu was, again, I spent a few shifts at the cafe to see what was ending up in the trash, and we realized that the beverage counter alone was producing so much discard or waste, which was perfectly usable in terms of nutrition, flavor, fiber, all of that, just from the cold pressed juices, that we literally created a menu of like 8 or 10 items, as you can see on the screen, using just that. So that we created a salad, like a Somtam inspired, Thai inspired salad, using the white rind of the watermelon. We had a lot of orange peel from the orange juice that went at breakfast and brunch. So we created a probiotic soda from the orange rinds, and the yogurt whey that we used to make Greek yogurt in-house. The pomegranate peels, although they're not literally edible, but they have a lot of antioxidants, nutrition, and flavor in them. So the next best way to extract the maximum nutrition or flavor out of something before you actually let it go is a good way to use it. Like the teas and drinks and infusions are a good way to use it. This was the star of the menu. We created a taco base using the carrot, apple, ginger pulp that was left behind in the cold pressed juicer after the juice was extracted. And this dish has stayed on the menu way after the special menu ended as well. And the whole idea was to show people, to make the food waste work for you, to generate more income. So I would like Sumit and Pankaj both to kind of talk about it from a business perspective. I know from the environmental side of it, all of us do care about where the food waste is going or how much we waste, how much we're consuming. But at the end of the day, we also have to see that people are running businesses, people are running restaurants, bars. How does it appeal, and how would you even try to send a message out to people across the world, restaurant owners, bar owners, business owners across the world, as to why they should care about food waste being generated from their kitchens and bars?
Yeah, I'm going to make one point here where it works very well from a sustainability or a ethical point of view, but even from from a cost perspective, a lot of the cafes that we've worked at, or the concept restaurants we've worked at, tend to have a food cost of around, say, 25 to 30% when it comes to the ingredients. These dishes that we had worked on were substantially low in terms of the food cost, and some of them actually worked out at 7 to 8% food cost, which is unbelievably good for a cafe. Which, so not only did we really feel good about what we were doing, but it sort of it worked out really well from a cost perspective as well. Right at the start, when Arina came and started jumping into our kitchen and looking in through the trash, a lot of our team members out of jest would call her the kachre wali, or the cleaner, or someone who would come and go through our waste. But eventually they realized there was a lot of thought behind every exercise out here, to the point where we just couldn't even keep up with the quantities that we sold, and we were eventually running out of material where, we were selling more, and we actually had to create more, more ingredients, because we just were getting sold out with a lot of the dishes on the sustainability menu. And we've actually done this in a certain way in the past as well. In one of our other restaurants, where we used to use the peel of the potatoes to try and create a dish called potato skins. And it became a bestseller on our menu, where eventually we had to start consuming, more potatoes and start using it for staff meals, for family meals, as much as possible, because we were just getting, sold out. So I think in a way, what we are trying to say here is, if there's creativity and, you can come up with, a cool idea and be innovative, there's so much you can do with leftovers at the restaurant as well. And eventually these were ideas that, our guests enjoyed so much that they would start taking recipes from us, and they would try and do the same thing at home as well. So there's so much you can do in terms of influencing your guests. People are smart. People genuinely want to do the right thing. Kids, were asking us for recipes, at the cafes as well. So there's, in a way, it's just not about trying to do the right thing and, trying to, have these ideas at the cafe. It financially benefits, restaurants as well, as long as you can, be a little innovative with this. Pankaj, do you want to add a few points about this?
Yeah, I mean, I'll speak about from a Woodside Inn standpoint. So just to give you guys a little bit of a brief, Woodside Inn is our little gastropub that we started in 2007. It's your, friendly neighborhood gastropub. We now have Woodside Inn in 3 locations in Mumbai. We have in Colaba, Andheri West, and Bandra. And the idea is that it's not really a place you would go and expect it to be sustainable, or expect it to be using sustainability as part of its ethos. But I think the idea with Arena, one thing we did was the Wasted at Woodside Inn menu, which is a cocktail menu using waste ingredients that we generate during the day-to-day operations of our gastropub. We went through the ingredients together, things that were getting wasted. Arena, created some very, very interesting cocktails using those wasted ingredients. And the thought process here was never to make it seem that we were using, waste ingredients, or ingredients that were previously going into the trash. The idea here was just to showcase that we can extract flavors from all sorts of varieties of ingredients that we previously thought was not possible. So, Arena, you mentioned something earlier on about looking at waste as ingredients rather than anything else. And I think that was the attempt here as well. I'll let you take the lead a little bit with the cocktail menu, Arena.
So the idea behind this cocktail menu was to take classics and kind of give them a sustainable twist, or to kind of give them a surprising twist, where if we didn't tell you that it was made from ingredients that normally end up in the trash, guests probably wouldn't have known. It would have just been a seasonal or a special cocktail menu. So, something as simple, we took a whiskey sour and we recognized that we had a lot of orange rinds left over from when they use orange juice in cocktails, or for, in the juice menu. And we also make cheese in-house. So we had a lot of whey lying from there, which is absolutely amazing in flavor and makes a great substitute to egg whites that are normally used in whiskey sours. And, so it's helpful for vegetarians. A lot of vegetarians hesitate when it comes to consuming raw egg whites, or just eggs in general. So the idea, again, we took 2 waste ingredients and turned it into a familiar cocktail, which is, I think, a classic and a favorite everywhere. And even the orange rinds, after we extracted enough flavor out of them, we dehydrated them and turned them into a powder to dust the cocktail. And this cocktail, I think, was one of the best sellers on the menu, because it was so comforting with like familiar flavors. Another one we did was, again, used coffee grounds. Spent coffee grounds from the coffee machine is something that most people don't know what to do with. But the advantage, it can be used to an advantage where it has all the flavor of coffee, but none of the acidity, because that's already been extracted through the first brew. And so we created a lovely after dinner drink using spent coffee grounds, and we clarified the drink by straining it through whole milk. Again, and when we created another sneaky sundae, which you can see in this picture in a little glass jar, where you could, it was a cocktail in the form of a dessert, like a banana sundae, using every part of the banana, all the way from the peel to the skin, to the peel and the fruit itself. And you could eat the entire cone, so you don't even have a glass left in your hand at the end of the drink. And I think, again, Pankaj, if you could shed some light from a purely from a business perspective to talk to other bar owners as to, it wasn't an exercise that you did for sustainability per se, but how it helped, change the perspective in the guest size as well without compromising on flavor or anything of the sort.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, I think first step is waste is lost money, right? I mean, as a business, you don't want to lose money, and anything that you waste in your operations is lost revenue. And I think most businesses understand that, especially in the F&B industry, where we go through so many different ingredients on a daily basis. We go through we when we buy tomatoes, we buy like in the hundreds of kilos at a stretch, and so on. So the quantity of waste generated also is quite high. So I think one part of this is the business side, where everything from the yield that we would get from the vegetables needs to be efficient, to ensuring that the sort of ingredients that we use, the portion sizing for the final dish needs to be also balanced. Same thing with the cocktails. I mean, so much juice goes, so many fruits are used on a regular basis. So the thought process was, how can we ensure that from a business standpoint this works, but at the same time we are a gastropub, right? Woodside Inn is not the place. It doesn't have sustainability as the front face of its brand imagery. We don't think of it as a place where you go and find waste ingredients. Plus, in a city like Bombay, people usually, when they hear the word waste, there's a negative connotation to that. So how do we find a balance was the goal of this wasted Woodside menu, and things like the whiskey sour, which Arena took everyone through, was a simple idea. It was still your classic whiskey sour. It still had all the flavors that you would find in a whiskey sour, but it was, if the only difference is it was made using whey. So these are the simple ideas that transform people's thought process as well, that hey, something can be done using ways that does not compromise on flavor.
Thank you so much for that. And yeah, I think the whole idea was to, show people that it can work to your advantage. And waste, again, it has to become a mainstream theme. It can't just be a fad or a fashion that's coming, or it can't be used as a keyword or a marketing hook for places, or it doesn't, like, sustainability doesn't belong only to cafes that are trying to be eco-friendly or focused on health food or focused on environmental issues. I think food waste is something that can be addressed across the board in all sorts of F&B establishments, whether it's retail, food, or even deliveries, cafes, restaurants, anything. I think that's the whole idea of this exercise, that just stop looking at food waste as waste and look at it as food.
Thank you so much for sharing all this with us. I think it was very useful to see also from the business perspective the added value of such initiatives. I have a question, because you are in the business for a very long time, according to the presentation you showed us. How do you see this becoming more known or more practiced in India, or especially in the cities where you work? Do you see other restaurants also picking up on these habits and practices?
I think I think Sumit said something quite interesting at the beginning of this discussion. He mentioned that it's a part of not wasting enough is essentially a part of our ethos. I mean, I'll give an example. My grandmother used to take used saris and make them into bags that she would take to get vegetables, and this is, she's just do it because she didn't, why would she use plastic? Why would she spend money on getting something when, this is a perfectly acceptable, nice way of upcycling your used clothes. And when it comes to restaurants, I think even in India, in a country like India, where there are various kinds of restaurants in various different price ranges, the bottom line is extremely important as a business. And as I said, waste is lost revenue, and I think that basic thought process is there. I think what's more important is how guests are going to react when they go to your favorite restaurant and you see, banana peels being used in a cocktail. Would that transformation take time is going to be something that we need to understand and observe.
Yeah. And in terms of training your own staff, how much effort did it take? Because I saw that, especially from hotels, when they were approached with food waste management practices, that it's an extremely important factor for them because labor is also money. How much would it take for the initial training? And does that require more labor to maintain these practices?
I'm going to answer that. So I think as long as the team, the management team, genuinely believes in the benefits, I think training the team is a possibility, and it's I think team members tend to be quite excited about the process once they understand why why we're doing it, why we're why what we're trying to create, how it's going to benefit us. From an economic standpoint, but also from the standpoint of of guests viewing it as something that is as a very, very important process. I think once that happens at the marketing level, at the management level, if things are very clear, I think it's then possible to train the team, and team members tend to be very, very enthusiastic about it, because I think somewhere saving is anyways a big part of how most people think anyways. And when it comes to restaurants, if it can be implemented in such a way where it can lead to results where you get a lot of and this innovation also gives you you get people excited, guests are excited, it really does eventually lead to results. So can training happen? I definitely think it's not such a process that is very time consuming.
That's good to hear. Actually, when you showed the cocktail menu, it reminded me of an experience from last year in Berlin. I went to a bar, won't name it, and one of their very popular drinks, or actually not one, all of the sours what they were selling, pisco sour, whiskey sour, they were the runners. So wherever I looked in a packed bar, at least every second person had a sour. So I myself really like sour drinks. So I ordered one, and then I saw them immediately chucking the yolk in the trash. And so if I just looked at that one night, I don't know how many eggs, cartons of eggs they went through, and all of the yolk landed in the trash. Now, obviously, we can say, yeah, if you have a kitchen in the background, you can collect that and do something in it. But what can bars do who don't have a food operation?
I mean, I think there are other ways for sours to still have that fluffiness. I think whey is one thing we use, but you can also use chickpea water. Chickpea water provides that same kind of texture, and when you shake it, it's got that consistency that egg white would give without any of the whey. So chickpea water is actually wasted, right? When you open a can of chickpeas, whatever water you use is wasted. You can actually use that to make pisco sours and whiskey sours, and if made well, you won't even be able to tell the difference. We've actually done that and been quite successful in doing that as well.
Yeah.
I think that also widens your audience base, because a lot of people love the idea of a whiskey sour and a pisco sour. But before the whole concept of using the chickpea brine or the ways even came into play, people would just be like, okay, give me a whiskey sour without the egg whites. But then it's not it loses the essence, right?
Yeah.
So it's also helped restaurants and bars broaden their customer base. But for the example that you cited, like if it's a bar that does not have food, if they still want to stick to using eggs, they should probably find a little bakery or a home baker or somebody in their community, in their neighborhood, and send the yolks to them. And it's very easy. Or it's even if you don't have a full-fledged kitchen, if you can use the yolks to create a hollandaise and just serve it out with chips as a bar snack, and to close the loop out. Basically, the idea is there's no limit, like there's no shortage of ideas of what you can do with food, right? Because it's still an ingredient. It just comes down to changing a person's mindset, whether it is the owner of a business, whether it is the chef or the cooking team in the kitchen, or it is your consumer, right? You just have to show them that it does not have to be a substandard experience or a low grade item. It can still stand at par with a conventional cocktail or a conventional dish. Like Sumit mentioned earlier, when I started going to the cafe and saving stuff from ending up in the bin, and I used to keep telling the staff, don't throw this, don't throw this, don't throw this. They literally, for the first month, I was the garbage lady. That's all I was. And it was not that because they don't know. They're all Indian. They come from Indian homes that their wives, mothers, grandmothers have been using every part of the ingredients. They know that it's supposed to be done, right? But moment they shift into the professional kitchen, where they're thinking from a chef's point of view and from a guest menu point of view, they cannot make the connection that, oh, I can apply this at my workplace as well. It's the same thing that I've been eating and grown up with through my mom, grandmom, my wife, or my sister, cooking at home. But, it took me that time to create the first dish from the trash for them to taste and like, oh, this is not something that is so out there. It's not an alien concept, right? It was just that. It's that one moment where somebody eats something and then you tell them, you know what, this was supposed to end up in the trash and it's in perfectly good condition on your plate, and it has a lot of nutrition. It's not even something that we put there for the heck of it because we want to make money out of it or because we want to be environmentally sound. It is good for you as an individual, for your nutrition and for your diet as well. So I think it starts with simple education and an experiential learning where you can actually, like a tangible thing in front of you, that I've eaten this or I've had this cocktail, and why haven't we been doing it all? It's like a light bulb moment, like this is so normal. Why was I treating it like trash? So I think everybody just needs to shift their.
Yes.
I just want to add a point, Julia, just a quick point. I think I think restaurants also have to adapt to the way guests are perceiving, an F&B space. How you perceived, the fact that, the eggs were being discarded in front of you, there was waste right there. This is how everyone is thinking at this point, whether you're using glass bottles or plastic bottles, for your edited beverages, processes going on in front of you and the way you're viewing it, eco-friendly material used restaurants is everything that is being viewed, from at professional, F&B spaces as well. So the more consumers ask, the more consumers observe, and is more that the expectations from the F&B industry is going to increase, and then it's very important we keep on working in the right direction. So this push from guests is as important as as sort of throwing ideas at people.
Yes, I cannot agree more. Thank you so much. In the meanwhile, we already have some the next speakers arriving. Thank you again, Arina, and thank you, Pankilan Sumitraj. I hope I pronounce your name correctly.
Yes, that's correct.
I hope that at one point I will return to Mumbai or any of the locations where your businesses are operating, and I can myself visit and try your delicious creations. And a bit of a spoiler for later, Arina will return with one of the Climate Shaper teams to introduce one of her other projects later today, our time, 3:30 p.m. Central European summertime. So thank you again. And I would like to welcome to stage Cyril Beneshe. I really hope I pronounced his name correctly. And Toine Timmermans. We are now back to Europe. And we are now back to Europe, and we will showcase some best practices from Brussels and the Netherlands. There we go. Hi, Syria. Excuse me, please, that I switched off your camera, but we were still in the conversation. I am very happy that I got introduced to you through Ariane, who is also on her way to join us. But today is a very busy day, the first day dedicated to awareness about food loss and waste, and there are other activities running. So I know that Toine has been also attending other events organized. So I'm extremely happy that I could welcome you both here. I don't know if you had a chance in the meanwhile to look into the session. So the session started today at 8 a.m. We kicked off with our team in Japan, and throughout the day we learned about different practices from Japan through India, and also I think we showcased Berlin and the UK. Not only practices what can be done in the kitchen, but also technological innovations, thinking about mimic attach. So I would first ask you to introduce yourself while we wait for Oriane. I know that Toine prepared with a presentation, and I'm pretty sure that we will hear a bit more about MedLab, which is the company of Cyril. So Cyril, would you mind telling us a bit about yourself? Oh, you are muted. Ask to unmute.
Yeah.
Now, perfect.
Hi. All right. So, thank you very much for inviting me there. It was a bit last notice, but it's
Sorry about that.
No, don't worry. It's fine. It's really fine. So here I created MedLab 4 years ago, I think. It's a biscuits and crackers factory. Let's say it's still on a small scale, but I had the chance to work with some very good partners and breweries, and they introduced me to a new product. I mean, for me it was new. It's spent grain they use to brew the beer. So don't remember the name of the grain. It's in English. I don't know.
I think it's brewery spent grain. That's the one. But
yeah. But the name of the grain before it is spent grain. It's
barley.
Barley. Yeah, right. Exactly. Love beer. Yeah. So the barley they use to produce the beer get wasted after the process, after it lost all the sugar. But it's still very rich in proteins and fibers and a lot of nutrients. So we take it back, not exactly dry it because it wasted too much energy, but we freeze it and then reuse it later for our crackers. So which gives them like a very great taste and also like enrich them in proteins and fibers a lot.
All right. So just a quick question. You said you don't dry it because it's too much energy to consume. So you freeze, and then when you use it for your dough, a cookie dough, that means that you use the remaining moisture as a moisture for your recipe.
A bit. The process is a bit longer. We have to press it first to remove as much water as we can, and then freeze it to waste as few energy as possible. And then we keep it frozen for a while until we need it, and we defreeze it, and then we use it in the dough. Right.
I see. So I like to ask questions to actually show people how much did it take to actually design a product like that? Because you said you started a few years ago. At that moment, we didn't have so many products like this on the market. So how did the whole product development process go, and how did you actually end up with the idea?
Life. Really, sometimes like that. I started with sweet biscuits, just not exactly classical, but very sweet. And all my friends wanted to have something for to have a few drinks with and something like that. So I started to look into like more savory recipes. Mm-hmm. And one of the bar in Brussels, where I am, is serving actually malted barley with his drink, as appetizer almost. And I like the taste. but I didn't know how to find it, how to recreate that. I tried to do biscuits with beer, actually, just pouring beer in the dough, and I got bread, which was not exactly what I wanted to get. And then one of the brewery I was working with just gave me some of this spent grain, dried spent grain. So like, yeah, try something with that. We'll see where it goes. And that's how it started, really. I tried, I made several tests, and at first I was drying it, but it takes way too long and way too much energy to do that. So when I had the mean to do it, I began freezing it, and it's way easier now.
I see. And the pressing process, what you meant at the beginning, is that with a special equipment, or how shall I imagine that? Here, I'm sorry, I have also personal interest in asking all these questions.
That's all right. It's extremely special. It's a fruit press for fruit juice, pretty much.
Ah, okay.
The one you can. I mean, I started with like a 5 kilo one. I'm now with a 20 kilo one, which is way heavier, but it's still the same very easy process. It's all manual still.
I see. So you are also running yourself the production?
Yeah.
Very interesting. So because we didn't have slides, and I still want to somehow showcase your product and people to remember at least the name. If you don't mind, I will just share the screen with your website, because I found that also pretty nice. So
at the same time, can I ask questions also?
Yes. Thank you, Anna. Welcome. I didn't want to interrupt in the meanwhile. So
no, that's right. Sorry to be late, but yeah, meeting after meeting. So hi, nice to meet you, Cyril. We're in the same country, but anyway. So I just wanted to understand, how do you get an organic label on waste? How does it work?
That's a good question, actually. I had to ask for. I mean, at the very beginning, the spent grain I got was not organic, but I wanted to go toward like more organic products. So I looked into organic breweries, and actually one of them was a friend of a friend. So I contacted them. I met them in an exhibition and stuff like that, and they were okay to just give me the spent grain. But yeah, they were my certification label asked me to get certification on that, and they actually knew also that there's the same certification agency that goes for the brewery and my production. So they knew what we were doing, and they just gave it to the brewery just very easily.
Can you get enough spent grain from the organic breweries? Because there's not much breweries doing organic.
There's not much of them, actually. It's actually an issue we have, because I have to take my car to get there and get the spent grain, bring it back to the lab, and everything, because it's the only one that allow us to take the spent grain. Actually, there's another one in Brussels, and there's a new one who's gonna create beers in Brussels, so that might be easier now. And also, I live just in the same. I work in the same building. My bad. As another brewery, who's starting to who's going to start to do some organic beers. So that's going to be like 20 meters from my workshop. To get the spent grain, and that's going to be very interesting then, because it's way more interesting to get the spent grain from an urban brewery than a brewery in the countryside.
And another question that's also interesting, the waste, let's say, in upcycling the food. So a lot of companies like yours is trying to upcycle leftover or spent grains, or it can be fruit pulp. The question is, to get into the market, there's a request from the retailers to be very consistent in the quality, but also from the consumer. How do you make sure that you have the same consistency, or you don't guarantee it because it's spent grain, and so you cannot really control
That was strange. Actually, I don't guarantee much. It's still a very small scale operation, so it's really hard to have those kind of guarantees, except that we have recipes that we follow. Otherwise, when I get the Spain grain, I don't decide what kind of beer they're brewing. So it might be a bit more, the grain might be a bit more roasted than the one before and everything, but honestly, there's not much difference. No, I couldn't tell the difference, seriously.
That's good.
Because they got cooked and baked over, so it's fine. I'd like to, sorry, just one more word is, if you know how they do black beers and stout and stuff like that, the grain is way more roasted and almost black. And I actually like to try that because it's way more caramelized, and I'd like to try that taste as well. So that will be something very different. But
that's not organic.
So, yeah, it is. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Sorry.
So if we want to think about volumes, so these are small scale breweries who you are working with, but how much spent grain do they produce? And from that, how much percentage can your business take over? I assume you are not using all of the spent grain from the brewery, right?
Right now, every time I go to my brewery, I get almost all the spent grain they are producing in one brewing process. Which is like almost 200 kilos, but then it holds for a month or two. So then, but they are brewing twice a week. So yeah, there's a lot of spent grain that is still wasted. And honestly, I do believe the best process for spent grain is not in alimentation, it's not in food. There should be some more usage for it in construction, isolation, and stuff like that. It's not yet in place.
Yeah. And how do you select the other ingredients for your products?
How do I find them?
How do you select the other ingredients? Because as we showed, you have different flavor profiles, and I assume the biscuits are made out of different ingredients as well. So how do you select those?
Actually, in the crackers, the main ingredient is the flour, and I worked in Wallonia, where they are like a very good how do you say?
But ground the flour.
Yeah, but a very local one, and it was. I was working with this flour anyway, so I got it, and I know where they are producing. I know the place. I know the quality. It's all good. And when I came back to Brussels, another meal came to me to say like, oh, do you want to try that flour we're doing? And it's actually a closer one to Brussels. They're working with like agriculture in like farms in like 40 k's from their place, and it's great. It's actually helped us a lot in our process, this flour. So that's the main ingredient. Oil is a bit more complicated. It's usually come from Netherlands or France. It's very hard to choose exactly the one you like.
Nice. I would like to then open a bit more the question to Brussels and Belgium. So Oriane, who is my fellow student from the Food Innovation Program, she is a very great scout of innovation and different products. And I don't know anyone else who is so interested in supermarket shelves than her. So I would like to hear a bit more about the landscape of packaged products or any other initiatives dealing with food waste in Belgium. Yes, it's for the both of you. Yes.
Okay. Big challenge now. But the first initiative was actually with the Brussels Beer Project. when they started brewing with leftover bread.
Yeah.
That was like one of, I don't know if it was the first, but at least the most well-known waste upcycled product, I'd say.
Yeah.
That in the shelf, I would say this one. I don't know if you know something else in the shelf.
There's a few companies.
Oh, well, it doesn't necessarily need to. Sorry. Yes.
No, sorry. There's a few company I know they are using like it's not exactly leftovers, but vegetables that's going to be wasted to create like soup, to create jams, fermented products, this kind of thing. Like I don't know if you know Fruitopia.
Fruitopia. Yeah, I can share the. Can I share my screen?
Of course.
Where can I share my screen?
It's at the bottom of the page.
Oh yeah, share screen is in green. Yeah, here there's two I wanted to share. So this is Fruit Collect. I really love this initiative because they really understood there was a need from private owners of fruit trees that they were not picking their fruit or they didn't know what to do with it, and so they are organizing pickings all around. I believe Belgium. I'm not so sure what is the area where they're working, but so they organize collect of fruits and then they produce juice from it. From the private gardens, let's say, and I found that very interesting. That's the first thing. In Fruitopia, yeah, that's the one that you were mentioning, and that's basically a canning factory.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be. It's a bit like in the one in the Netherlands, and I think that we can talk about it later. Like the waste factory that we visited together. That's very interesting. It's basically like. It's to conserve, to can food that could be wasted or downcycled somehow. I don't like to say wasted, like if we can just use like up or downcycled, but a certain way it's cycled. In a certain way, it's recycled, downcycled, or it's upcycled. It's not wasted. So yeah, that's it. So that's the two I was thinking of. And otherwise, it's not processed. There's a lot of like collect of fruits and vegetables that are misfit, and then they are sold in the end of the day like a too good to go. We have also that's not a Belgian initiative, but it's called Olio, and it's not very famous.
The one.
Yeah, it's like too good to. No, it's not too good to. It's sharing food that could be wasted at home with your neighbors. As simple as it is. But they obviously have a lot of problems with the food security institutions in Belgium for that.
Because then who takes the liability if something was wrong? It's very difficult in such systems.
Yeah, but I must say that the food security system in Belgium, at least for the manufacturers, are very tricky, and they actually sometimes cause waste that is still like edible food, but they don't want to take any risk, and so they just decide to trash a lot of food. This was my experience with manufacturers.
Yes. So bringing up the food waste factory or the Festfillingsfabrik would bring me to the point to actually bring Toine Timmermans also in the conversation, because he was part of the team who actually dreamed about the food waste factory. So Toine, I would love to hand over to you. I know you have a few slides, and then maybe afterwards we can come back to a roundtable discussion about existing solutions in the food system.
Okay, thank you, Julia. Thanks for inviting me. And this is really an exciting day. Traveling all over the world to see the activities on the first International Day of Awareness on Food Loss and Food Waste. So it's great to see so much is happening, but we have so much more to do, I would say. So you introduced like the session on we're going to talk about best practices. To be honest, I hope the Netherlands will be one of the best practices in a couple of years from now. We are not there yet either. Nobody is there yet. So that's probably also the reason why this day is organized. We need more systemic change. There's sufficient good initiatives, but they don't scale up yet. So how do we make the system change that? Yeah, food is and I don't like the word wasted. Food is utilized and in a circular economy and stays in the food system all the time. And yes, I have slides. I have loads of slides. So so please guide me through it. What you think is most relevant. But I'll start sharing my screen. So I hope you can see it. See this now. Yeah. So. Yes. What I would like to talk about mostly is about some history, some background on where we are now in our national strategy on an action program to reduce food waste at the national level. As you might know, I've been coordinator of 2 of the first pan-European programs on fighting food waste across Europe. Understanding, getting the figures right. So these are figures that are memorized. Still a lot based on data from the Fusions project, so that we waste 88 million tons of food in Europe totally. But also having the first evidence on how much is it of total food, about 22%, but also causing 6% of greenhouse gas emissions across Europe, producing something that we don't utilize. So it's a waste also of all the resources being used. After the Fusions program, I had the privilege to coordinate the follow-up program called Refresh, and there we focus much more on creating collaborative ecosystems for change, framework for actions on national level, to see how we could bring together the businesses, the government, but also the scale-up startups and the smaller businesses to really look at more systemic approaches and the key steps to have impact on reducing food waste at the national level. And we had the opportunity to pilot that in 5 different countries, the Netherlands, Spain, Germany, Hungary, and also China. And China was a very interesting case, where you see that the role of governance model is also a very important one, because trained as an engineer, I can tell the solution, the limiting factor is not the technology. It is all behavior. It's all leadership. That is what is needed. How are we doing in the Netherlands? Well, the first policy was started in 2009. The first government policy with the ambition to reduce food waste with 15% or 20% in 2015, but we didn't achieve that. Hundreds of initiatives, all type of strategy, mostly by the associations. Some companies taking the lead in reducing food waste across the supply chain. We saw hundreds of startups coming up during that period. But what you can also see is that the curve is not going down. So this created around, I would say, 2014, for us, the inconvenient truth is like, yes, but we're doing so much, but we don't achieve any good serious progress. And that gave a reason for some of the front runners, about 25 organizations, say, okay, we need to work on a better plan. And that's what we did at that time. And that was the starting point for developing what is now called the Foundation Samen tegen Voedselverspilling, or Food Waste Free United. With the following also what I think is the best model is following the mantra also of the Champions 12.3 Coalition Target Measure Act. So it starts with setting the target. Most companies and organizations that we work with have agreed to the target of halving food waste in 2030, the SDG 12.3. But it also comes down to transparency, getting the data right, understanding where the hotspots are, and also coming in a modus of action. And the action can start easy, it can start small, but we always think like, what is the next step and how do we create further impact? With that as an ambition, so we have on average in the Netherlands between 1.7 to 2.5 million tons of food waste. So if we want to meet our targets, we have to reduce it with at least 1 million tons in almost, a little bit more than 9 years from now. There's a lot of discussion about definition. So when is it called food waste? We just announced today, this day, that the Netherlands will harmonize also definitions with the European framework that we worked on also in the Fusions project. And there it becomes clear that preventing is always the best, giving it to people to redistribute, then to process it in still being able to to be utilized as food for people, animal feed, and some high value chemicals and biomaterials. Everything below is considered waste, and that's something you should not do with food or food surplus. That's not common understanding, especially in parts of the world where there's still a lot of landfill. Then investing in anaerobic digestion, for example, is seen as a good thing. I would promote not to spend any money on that, because you're creating a lock-in there. Always go for something that's creates value or keeps the value in the supply chain. In this systemic approach, is built on 4 different pillars. Already mentioned, it's about transparency, monitoring, and showing the key impacts of what prevention of food waste can mean, not only on the kilograms, but also on the environmental impact, the impact on land use, on biodiversity, and all the other even more important indicators. It's about collaboration across the supply chain and innovation. Understanding that on average consumers waste about 35-40% of the total food waste across the supply chain. You need to focus also there. We focus much on the creating the positive norm and with good impacts. And the 4th one is maybe even the most important one, is how to change the rules of the game towards a more circular economy. So there's a lot of blocking legislation. There's maybe perverse incentives in the system, or there's a type of collaboration modes across the supply chain that prevent that this total use principle is used more widely. So we are addressing those 4 in a systemic manner. As a foundation charity, we only exist 1.5 years, so we are still small. But I'm very pleased that we are at the moment with about 80 stakeholders all across the supply chain. 80% of Dutch retail is stakeholder to our platform. And stakeholder means that you follow that principle, target, measure, act. So they report also transparent about the levels of food waste they have in their operation. And we discuss with them on what's the next level of action they want to take. So within this, what we call an ecosystem, we already see hundreds of activities taking place. And what I think is the most crucial thing here is it's more done in collaboration, and it's scaling up much faster than before. But it is also creating, let's say, the leverage for startups, scale-ups to work faster with organizations that can use their scale for impact. So it's really functioning as I would say, a mature ecosystem. 80% is businesses, and it's added with governance on a national and local and province scale, solution providers, and knowledge institutions and NGOs. This 1 million tons, we have split it up in 6 different sectors, or roadmaps as we call it. So to be able to go for the 1 million tons, we also need to see where that's coming from. And that's in the 6 different areas: consumers, extra donation and redistribution, reduction of food waste in the out-of-home channels, the retail sector, valorization of surplus, and probably the most difficult one, but also the most important one, is reduction of food losses at primary sector level, where not so much is known, but and that's probably one of the reasons why food waste figures in many countries are not going down, since as we produce as much for the same amount of consumers, you're just replacing it where probably the food waste will occur. But if you don't produce less or have other markets do it, then you still have food waste or food loss somewhere. Within those roadmaps, we have identified what we call interventions or solutions, and looking at the different actions is where we see, like, what are the quick wins, what are the challenging opportunities, and what are the promises where there's more like the innovation that is needed. This is the way we work with our stakeholders to identify priorities and also say, like, this is a next step in a transition process. So for each of the 6 roadmaps, we have identified a kind of transition process where we're looking for the next stage in innovation with our partners. But it starts with benchmarking. It starts with transparency. And I think we are one of the first countries in the world now that can publish a benchmark for retail, because we have data of 80% of the retailers that report to us. Yeah, they agreed also, since it is 80% of the market, that we can publish this benchmark to the open. And I think that's a very important step, not only being transparent and showing where it is and what products are, but this is also, and that's what we see happening now, every retailer wants to beat the benchmark and their individual benchmark. So we see much more action and scaling because of now it's in the open. And that's a very positive thing. And they also the retailers consider this as a very positive thing. Of course, they were like a bit reluctant. Can we share this? And what will be the response from the public? But up to now, it's all very positive. And now it will continue to be positive because they are reducing their percentage, on average 1.7% of the food in their operations. So what is retail doing? This is kind of an overview of some of the activities. And then it's always like, if you are Albert Heijn, probably some of you know Albert Heijn is the largest retailer in the Netherlands. They're more full service supermarket. They are doing different stuff than, for example, Lidl as more as a discount. But they're both working with solutions that fit to their strategy and to their positioning. And Albert Heijn goes more to the, let's say, the fancy stuff like dynamic pricing. Well, Lidl has a very fast implementation of what, of a Verspilmeniet concept, where they can always put the products that's at the end of needs to be sold at the end of the day in a box and will go for a very low price. What I think is really exciting is that Lidl just announced in September also an intermediate target that they will reduce their food waste with 1/3 in 1 year. So the expectation is that the retail sector will meet their targets of half food waste within 2 or 3 years. And I think that's really exciting. But the most exciting thing is that we can focus in our actions not on what they do in their operation, but what is their influence and responsibility in the supply chain and towards their consumers. Because I think that's where they have a major role to play also. Let's look at some other activities. Already mentioned the Verspillingsfabriek, the food waste factory. This is set up by Bob Hutte as an entrepreneur. He's the director owner of a Hutte company, and this journey started in 2010. I was working with 2 retailers that want to valorize the surplus they had, to prevent and valorize. And then in 2011, I went to talk to Bob, like, could you help us out with making some of the best quality products out of this surplus? And that was the start of the journey. And 1 year later, Bob decided to build the factory. And now that has been running since 5-6 years. The status now at the moment is that the food waste factory, this year is a difficult year, but for many people especially in the out-of-home sector, where it's a major market for the products. But on average, this food waste factory can produce 20,000 liters of soups and sauces per day. So it is still small, but it is another volume compared to many of the startups that have been working in this area. But, and if you ask Bob and ask me, it's also an intermediate step. If you want to do it also on a, let's say, an economy of scale, the factory needs to be maybe 100, maybe 1,000 times as big as it is at the moment. And that, if you do it at that stage, then you can produce at a competitive level better quality of soup made from surplus, made with people that have distance to the labor market. Now it is still a difficult proposition, but it is going okay. It's almost break even, and I think this is it's not the largest factory using surplus, but it is the largest factory in the world using surplus and also telling that it is using surplus and putting it in the market under private label or their own brands, working with at the moment about 50 clients. The second example I have on the screen is I think one of the most exciting ones, because this is a response to how can farmers collaborate in producing what is needed and prevent food loss and food waste by new collaborative models. This is a group of carrot producers working together, aligned to one factory, and on the principle that everything of the carrot is utilized. Many people don't know, but if you buy the carrots at the supermarket that is processed and fresh, about 40 to 50% of the carrot is not in that bag. So that used to be a side stream. What this company, Verrijsing Ingredients, is doing is utilize also those side streams to make juices from it, ingredients for fibers and other ingredients for all type of products. For example, the fibers, because they have very good water holding capacities, they are used more and more in meat replacers, for example, in plant-based meat replacers. So they create a market to all of that. But basically what I think is the crucial thing is, since they choose the varieties that can be used for fresh and for industry carrots, they can always utilize all of the carrots, even if because of season and weather, they produce 20% more or 20% less than average. By doing so, and that's their claim, they can produce 1,000 hectares less while supplying all of their customers. And I think that is the crucial thing for solutions to food waste, because then you're actually adding to the climate change mitigation, biodiversity gains, because you're freeing up land to that can be used for other purposes. That's why I think this is one of the best examples, also showing that primary production also can be part of a solution. But there are many more from the industry. There are many more in low value upcycling. I think one of the most exciting one is a company like Probiotic, because they can utilize very low value products via insects and upcycle them to ingredients that can be used for feed and for food in the future. This sector is predicted to take 100,000 tons of low value plant-based surplus food in the coming years. So it's about 10% of our total national target that we have that can be taken by this sector. And this is full upcycling in a sustainable way, and they already have products in the market. But their main market at the end will be to replace fish meal with insect meal, and there's an enormous value that can be used there. Many examples in the industry, and yeah, we're also working like Cyril with companies working in the area of brewer spent grain, where our focus is more on like, can we create volume? In the Netherlands, we have 650,000 tons of brewer spent grain available. And I think that's a similar amount as in Belgium, also very well known for its breweries. But if you want to get the big corporates interested in doing something with their brewer spent grain, except for sending it for animal feed, then you really need to create volume. So we are working with some entrepreneurs that feel that they are going for that scale and for that impact, while the startups already have proven that you can make good products out of it. So similar with the food waste factory, we're not focusing only on the startups, but we like to see as fast as possible that they will become scale-ups and grown-ups to create the impact. I think this is an interesting example. If you look at one of the categories that's wasted most in the Netherlands, it's fresh bread. We have typically a fresh bread culture, but that means, and we also see that from the data in the retail, that every day 7.7% more bread is distributed to the retailers than they sell at the end of the day. 7.7%. In the whole of Netherlands, that is 350,000 breads per day. On the other side, consumers are also wasting about 350,000 breads per day. So this is an enormous hotspot. What this retail franchisor has done is to, and that's not a new idea. I've been working on that for over 10 years, like please go and do and test it out. And we have a working relation with Jumbo Verbena as a kind of living lab. So we can test all things out in practice. They were also the first to open an aisle of surplus products with over 18 different startups together to give them access to retail stores. But this is the latest thing they have done, is to open a fresh frozen bread aisle. And it's running now for six months, and the first results are very positive, since they don't have to order so much bread as before, since at the end of the day, there's always bread available for other customers. And typically in Holland, about 70% of the customers freeze their bread when they are at home. So it's already frozen to them, so it's also more convenient. Doing this on average, this supermarket has 60% less return of bread, 60% every day. So now since this is very positive also in consumer appreciation, and what I think is an important one, this is not bread that is over and frozen. Now the bread is frozen directly in the factory, so it's even more fresh than the fresh bread you can buy. So it's a complete new supply chain set up to deliver this aisle. I predict, given the positive results, reducing your food waste with 60% or your returns, but always have bread in your store. This will scale up very quickly. And not because it's such a brilliant idea, because it's been out there for many times, but it is because this now has been tested, validated, and it fits to, and it's based on data, and it's based on also the retailers that see like, yes, we have to work on our figures, because otherwise we might be lagging behind of the others. So it's part of the ecosystem development. Other things, working in restaurant sector, working on how to measure, but also you see a lot of logos, so collaboration with many partners. So it's probably not one solution, there's many types of solutions in measurement, getting the valorization or the validation of your surpluses, via Too Good To Go, no food wasted, and others, but also big brands that are involved here. I think the last slide is and that's probably also an important driver for change, is that we see, based on also, I can talk for hours about that also, on the positive norm campaign, is that we see that at consumption level, food waste levels are going down now, finally. So in the last 6 years, the reduction has been 29%, and the predictions are that it's going further down in the coming years, because this positive norm campaign is not addressing like the negative things of food waste. It's like, what can you do, and what's the intervention that you can do easily within your own bubble. So it's working with influencers, it's working with people that you can follow, that you consider as a role model, and that works for many areas, but it also seems to work very well for food waste reduction, since it is not difficult. But if people know that their colleague or their neighbor is also doing this, it helps them to do this much quicker also, and to do it more sustainable. So to keep on doing it, and not just doing it during the food waste free week that we just organized, but to make it structurally part of their normal behavior and system. I would like to keep it at that, and finishing with our role model Becky, that's leading the way to help Netherlands consumers to waste less food, and to become food waste free, because we always want to do it positive. Thanks for your attention, and happy to answer any questions, Julia, from any of you.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much. It was such an great overview. I thank you for all the examples and the facts, and I'm very happy about the positive note at the end. That was very encouraging, and gives us more optimism that we are fighting for good cause. I would like to allow our other speakers to maybe ask some questions.
Please.
So I have 2 questions. Well, I have way more questions, but I will just choose 2. One for Toyn and one for Cyril. So the first one is for Toyn. So it's like in Belgium. In Belgium, we also have this average of 50% of the waste coming from households. Well, it's between 30 and 50, depending on the household, of course. The question is, with this the situation right now, with this economical crisis coming, because it's just the beginning, do you think that this will have an impact on managing better of food at home, and so probably better managing food waste, reducing food waste at home?
Yeah, we did some research at the early stage after the crisis in April. So we studied at the effect of COVID on consumer food waste, and we saw that food waste figures were going down. But that also has to do with people having more the opportunity. They are more at home. They have more understanding of to use their skill. They have more time. And what we also saw, and that's still going on, is people were buying less fresh and more processed food. So hamsteren, so they could keep it for longer. What we heard from studies in other countries, especially the UK, that figures are getting up again. But I don't see that happening in the Netherlands. And that is probably because COVID is combined with a positive norm campaign explaining about, for example, shelf life meanings. So what has been on television for 6 weeks, explaining what you can do and how you can save additional 5 kilo of food waste if you just do and understand the date labels right, and use your senses on best before dates, and not just throw them out if it just is passing the date. So it's also about people getting more knowledge. And I think what is really something that supports the long-term developers, we focus much more on education. So also on education at primary school, secondary school, but also professional level. And we see that if you get more skills there, but also more awareness about the long-term impacts of food waste reduction on climate, on biodiversity, the new generation understands it better. And I'm quite sure that's going to help. Because it's not difficult, it is really easy, but you need to do it, and you need to make it positive. Because if it's negative, people are just not going to do it. They throw out the food waste, and it takes them 3 seconds to think about, and then they forget about it. And if you make it positive, then people are giving each other tips, etc., and that helps.
Our recycling costs should be more expensive than it is right now. So we are more aware of what is the cost of recycling food, basically. But also, what I've seen in Belgium is that there was a really explosion of frozen food sales during the COVID. That probably also helped the food waste reduction in the households. You also mentioned being aware of what is wasted. I was wondering if really you communicate on what do you save in energy or in kilos per year by using the spent grain. So for example, in another industry, in the electric industry, there's this platform called Backmarket, FROBE. Is Backmarket is basically taking old phones, for example, or electric goods, and then giving a second life to these goods. And what you receive when you buy something from this website is you received an email saying you're a hero, but like literally you're a hero. You save that much of electric goods. And I found that very impactful. So I was wondering, how do you communicate that on your website or on your packaging, that we are in a certain way a hero by buying your product?
Yeah, and of course there's platforms that are very good at doing it, like Too Good To Go, that tells you you're a hero, you saved a meal now. I think what is interesting is, and we did the research in several European countries, is that you see the drivers of change for consumers are changing. And in the Western world, where we are here, money is not the important factor anymore. So talking about how much money you will save is probably not going to have any impact. There's no one who will tell it's not of interest, but that's not the influencing factor. Environment is not that big a factor either, but we see the social factor is coming in as most important, like that food that's thrown out could have been eaten by someone else. And we see that in the COVID that has increased the level that the social factor could have been, is a bigger driver for taking action. Yeah, but it's a very difficult one. So one of the things we tested out in the Food Waste Free Week is that we connected. We asked consumers to do challenges, for example, to reorder their fridge or to show how they're using the date labeling. Is if they shared a photo of that, they would save points and kind of air miles, but then modern way. And afterwards, with these earned miles, they could donate the product to, in this case, the Red Cross. So people did an action, saved and donated, in this case, products from the food waste factory to the Red Cross in Amsterdam. This was the first time we did this. And yes, there's a lot of things to be learned, but I think that is a very important element of future action. Like you say, people want to have immediate benefits because that's a good incentive. But if the benefit is a social one, for some consumers, that is a very relevant one. But saving money, contributing to a better environment is also always important. But I think if we can find ways to connect it to the social dimension, more people will be engaged in taking action. But what we've learned from many of the platforms like Too Good To Go, it needs to be simple. It's one click and you need to do, because otherwise people are not going to do it.
Mm-hmm. And for your example, Cyril, to come back to Belgium a little bit, how do you communicate that? How do you be inclusive with that?
We do communicate it on, that's what I went to look for, our packaging. I don't know if you can see it properly. On the side, there's the story, the whole to brew beer, consume that much grain, create that much waste, and we use that to explain. It's actually difficult for this kind of products when it's not just, I mean, soup, everybody knows what it is. In here, Spain grain, it's not very famous right now. It's getting there. So there's a lot of education to do with this kind of products.
But is it? Do we need to communicate that? Why we don't communicate that? Is it mandatory legally that you have to mention? Okay, you can mention the ingredients like Spain grains, but you have to. Do you think you would sell more if you just say it's another cracker?
No. No. I think it was interesting. It gave us like a lot of spotlights to create this product. Actually, to be honest, it's not our bestseller. That's not the one we sell most. There's other crackers we sell, and they're also good. It will be interesting for this product, for this particular product, to brand it a bit more into food waste, maybe, but also. There's another brand could be created for because it's rich in proteins and fibers, like for sports and this kind of thing. We branded it as more like a delicatessen product, which is like the midway in between. But just to for Tuan was saying, it was very interesting that you said that you need like bigger scale, like big scale to really reduce the food waste. I happen to know that AB InBev, which is one of the biggest brewer actually in the world, is starting to produce a product from Spain grains. It's actually going to be like another drink, another like kind of energy drink, I think, or something like that. I mean, that branding is good. But yeah, that's going to be like on a larger scale, definitely, with that product.
I still believe we need different scales somehow.
Yeah, it's really, these crackers are just a way to show that it's possible to do something with it. I know there's bakery in Brussels that are using it also. I know another brand who started like 6 months after me doing crackers with Spain grains. I know another one in France. There's a lot of companies starting up with that.
Right now, actually, it's really interesting why it's booming right now. Yeah. Are you looking forward to do another product, or if you have to choose another waste or another upcycle product?
It's already indoors. Yeah. There's actually a lot of food waste in fruit juice. Producing juice and ciders from apples, pears, everything. It's really difficult, but it's a challenging process to get those fruits that have been pressed, to dry them and to create some products out of it. I tried a few, and we'll see where it goes, but it could replace sugar, it could replace flour, it could replace I don't know how to say that, a kind of a gel thing.
Like gelatin?
Kind of, yeah. Kind of. It could be used to do that, actually. It's a very interesting product. Taste is not amazing, so you won't be able to use a lot of it. But it's already like for people who want like less sugar or less stuff like that. It's very interesting. It's full of fibers as well.
I think you should have a look at the replay of the last session, the previous session, because they were giving a lot of examples about that. In India, a lot of restaurants and cafes are doing that, and they were doing amazing food. I don't know how we can get this example or recipes, Julia.
I can definitely put you in touch with Arina afterwards. So I encourage you to watch the previous sessions also from the morning, because we had an example from Berlin and now from India as well, how to reutilize or utilize actually surplus vegetables, fruit pulps, everything. So because I already have the next speakers lining up, I wanted to thank you for contributing. For me, this day is super inspirational because you can see so many different ways of how we can fight food loss and waste from the consumer perspective. How can we label things to make them be aware of the actual longevity of freshness of products, and but later I will also show a project what I would like to start in Hungary. So a lot of inspiration and hopefully in the future partnerships, because that's also a very important part of this. There was a company I wanted to feature, but unfortunately, as we all know, there were different events today from Berlin who are distributing surplus from the farms in like mixed bags, and I think there are multiple initiatives like this going on already. And you can also see how that influences plant-based diets. Once someone gets used to ordering these products, then they can get more creative in the kitchen. And if we actually give consumers these ideas how to use their food and how to make it more delicious, I think that can change consumer behavior as well. That brings me to a point, because I would like to give a shout out to Anna's one of upcoming projects, which can actually help spicing up some of the ingredients. So Anna, would you like to maybe share a bit about the project I just referred to?
In 10 days, I will open a crowdfunding on, it's a blend of spices, 3 blends of spices that's dedicated to the vegetarian cooking. Is to really democratize the diet that everybody believes that vegetables are bland and with no taste. So with this kind of blend of spices that can be used for a lot of recipes, we highlight that. Highlighting that vegetables are not bland; they can actually be delicious with the right blend of spices. So and the name is called Alex. That's the brand, and it's going to be soon on the market.
On which platform?
Alex.spices. I can send you on Facebook if you want.
No, but the platform for the crowdfunding.
Ulule, the French one, because I target the French market. So
okay.
Yeah.
Right. So everyone, please support Anna in the campaign in 10 days. And for now, I would like to thank you for being here. And I will switch to Iceland from the Netherlands and Belgium. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye. So I would like to ask Gunnar and Ingi to join me on the screen. Thank you so much for waiting. We are actually on time. Super nice to see you. I don't know if Ingi, there he is. Perfect. Hello, hello. How are you?
Hi. Hi, wonderful to see you, Julia. And this broadcast has been a pleasure to watch.
Thank you. I am enjoying myself very much as well. So many different solutions to fight food waste and loss. And before I hand over the stage, I just wanted to explain how do we actually know each other with Gunnar and Ingi. Unfortunately, I haven't met them in person, but I know that last year we had a boot camp in Iceland where they actually participated and they became our local hosts. And since then, whenever we organize boot camps, events, I am super happy to involve them because they are working on great projects and innovation and also human-centered and planet-centered solution in our food system. So without wasting actually our time, I would hand over the stage. I know that Gunnar prepared something very colorful for today, and I would love to hear a bit about the initiatives in Iceland. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. So I only have a short presentation to share with you guys. So, Michelle, I am screen sharing and I do as such. So, Djúpið is my small project here in Bolungarvík, which is actually the end of the road on all accounts, 66 degrees north and 23 degrees west. We are as far from the warm climate of Central America and Central Europe as we possibly can be. But we are happy here. And me, I am Gunnar Ólafsson. I am 37 years old and I live in Bolungarvík. I am the proud father of 3 wonderful girls who supersede me in every possible way. I am a 7th generation fisherman as well. So my connection to the ocean is substantial. It is my second home and I am a Westfjordian. I moved back a couple of years ago to participate in the innovative scene in Iceland and especially in the Westfjords where a lot of change is needed. What we are seeing here in the background is my hometown of Bolungarvík, and this is actually a living museum that we have here, a beautiful one. Djúpið itself, we are a non-profit which is aimed at developing solutions for our rural community. We aid the entrepreneurs, local entrepreneurs, with their first steps. We provide them with processing facilities. We provide them with all the support that they might need. We are focused on sustainable development for our area, only sustainable development. So most of the projects that we are coming into are more socially aimed than actually being big business aimed. We are working with whomever can use our help, whether it is education, whether it is business owners or whatever it is, when we are not competing with anyone. And how are we working towards a zero waste economy here in the Westfjords? So we are actively involved in the local schools, which are all across the Westfjords. We participate there by both having one of our projects, Fræ til framtíðar, or a seed to the future. We are integrating teachings in plant growing and consumption responsibility with hydroponic systems in the classrooms. We are also helping older kids in the schools to develop their ideas and actually becoming a part of local governance. So securing their ideas into the city council or the whichever governance level they need to achieve, and we secure that their ideas will live on. This is, in our opinion, one of the ways that we can attract the younger generation to actually move back if they already are working on solutions, if they already have their heart burning for the cause. We are convinced that the consumer part of the food waste problem, it will not be fixed with another product. It's only a shift in education. It is a generational issue, not something that we can fix with a hashtag. Unfortunately, I wish it was. So we organize makeathons, hackathons, and events which are aimed at such a generational shift. The makeathon itself, in which case we were hosting a couple of weeks ago a makeathon here. We had 46 participants in the country. It was an EIS project, so it was known in the rest of Europe, and it was worked with Stanford University. We had 12 nationalities participating here in Iceland. So 12 foreign Icelandic nationalities, which was a joy to work with. The focus there was zero waste in production. So we were focusing on fish bones, we were focusing on otoliths, which is an interesting bone in the inner ear of a fish. And we were focusing on leftover meat from the salmon industry. And out from that makeathon, at least 3 of the projects that were started will continue and live with us and hit markets in the coming months. The projects that I chose to highlight here are those 3. We had one project here, which is salmon salt, whereas they are salt curing salmon and using every scrap into finally having a spice grinder that can flavor your food with salmon, which is beautiful. O2 seeds, which is fish bone paper with actual seeds, and that project already has orders for the Christmas market, so they are already operational even 2 weeks after the inception of the idea. And salmon on seaweed, which is creating mortadellas out of salmon. So focusing on a market that is moving away from the pork and the pork rearing industry. All of them extremely exciting products. And we are happy to be a part. The local innovation scene in the Westfjords is interesting. Most of the projects here in the Westfjords are actually focusing on minimizing waste and minimizing our footprint. So here in Djúpið, we are lucky enough to have several with us. Eldey Aqua, which is IMTA seaweed farming, working with both salmon farmers and sheep farmers alike, trying to figure out solutions. Frætil Frontier, which I mentioned briefly before, where we are working with the grade schools in hydroponics. Artificial reality NAT, which is artificial augmented or cross reality educational experiences. We're trying to, in a way, they're trying to upgrade the museums and the youth connection to our nature by integrating the augmented reality. So in case you didn't know, the winters here are extremely harsh, so we can not necessarily rely on taking our kids out in the winter. So we have to show them the beautiful nature by other means. Salmon on salt, which is the one I mentioned before, and salmon on seaweed. The local innovation outside Djúpið is also impressive and worth noticing. Keresis, which is wound care from fish skin. Absolutely amazing progress has been made there, and their markets are expanding as we speak. 3X, which is fish processing machinery. Now, minimizing waste in processing is extremely important, as we all know. So there they are, well, leading their class. Arctic Fish, which is as sustainable a fish farm you can ever find. In these cold, pristine waters that we have, they don't use antibiotics, so farmed salmon is not always poisonous. Our local Fab Lab. Well, we'd be little without them. It is the everything shop, so I do encourage you, if you have a Fab Lab in your local vicinity, to actually use it, because their network is impressive. And the University Center of the Westfjords, which is both focusing on rural development and coastal management. We in the Westfjords are lucky to have them. They have changed our perception of what is possible and what not. And hopefully we get to have more of their master level students to come and actually stay. Waste numbers in Iceland are less impressive than we would like. We waste, we throw away. And in 2016, the average Icelander threw out in excess of 23 kilos of consumable food. And unconsumable food is up well above 40 kilos actually in more recent numbers. In 2018, Reykjavik produced 263 tons of waste, half of which was recycled and half which was buried in landfills. That's not even all, as I say, because Sörpa, which is the company that services the Reykjavik area, they don't service every household. Industrial activity is responsible for 67% of these 267 tons. These are numbers we have to work on. We have to get better. And here in the Westfjords, we actually drive all of our food waste away. which is shameful. We have very specific challenges that we are working with. These hinder our progress in many ways, but also aid in others. So we have a very strong and dominant waiting culture in the Westfjords. So we say, "Þetta reddast." This means this will all work out fine. But how it affects us is that we are always expecting either the big company or our neighbor or whomever to actually come and fix the problem. We have a very monotonous industry. We say lífið saltfiskur, or life is a salted fish. That's kind of still what we do in the Westfjords and in Iceland. 70% of our export value in the Westfjords is actually still fish, and it will be. We are a fishing nation. The negative population growth in rural areas, that's something we are working on. It has to be a complete redesign of the small rural societies in order to be exciting for the next group. The below average education level, that's something that is actively being worked on, but it is a huge hurdle to jump over. And it leads to our most severe one, which is housing. Like entry-level housing in the Westfjords is almost non-existent. So we are struggling there, unfortunately, but we're getting better. And these are all the slides that I actually have, and I would welcome some questions if you have any. Or if not, I would like to, oh, there you are, Julia.
There I am.
Hi.
Thank you so much. I was actually amazed by all the products what came out from that Makeathon, and I have a question.
Yes.
That paper with made out of fish bone. Do I understand? So the paper is made out of fish bone and it has seeds inside.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can plant this paper then afterwards, and it will create my garden.
Yes, exactly. And that's kind of their whole idea, that printing, for example, business cards on that kind of auto paper is ingenious, because we could then with good conscience throw the business paper or the business card away. Yeah. So promotional purposes are something that the auto seeds paper is designed for.
Yeah. So, and the process to make that paper from fish bones. So how do I need to imagine? Because I know there are a lot of solutions already existing there, but is that a huge machinery what is needed for it? Is that a chemical process what has to be done? Can it be done on a small scale, big scale? So maybe if you can share a bit about that, that would be interesting.
No problem. So it requires a soft chemical process. So nothing terribly harmful for the environment can be used. In regards to the scaling of it, that's something entirely decided upon the scale of production. So like they were using like very commonplace machinery to make the prototypes. They were actually just using a kitchen blender and kitchen scales. So, and then of course they ran to the nearest fab lab, which is in Reykjavik in their case, and they made all the paper making equipment there. So making paper is easy. I do encourage most people to try it. It is both easy and fun.
Nice. So I would have a question what is more like Iceland as an ecosystem question, especially now when COVID happened and then borders closed down, and then luckily our supply chains recovered pretty fast and countries made sure that the flow of goods can still happen. But Iceland is a country, if you would get cut off from some of your supply, how long would it take to sustain yourself? And would food waste and other resource upcycling be a solution for these kind of situations?
That's a great question, and we were reminded of how fragile our delivery chains were last winter when the towns in Iceland were cut off for many weeks. Avalanches were wreaking havoc. It was an interesting scenario, but there we realized, for example, here in Bolungarvík, which was close for me, that it took 3 days of closed roads to deplete all the fresh produce from the stores. Only 3 days. And that's a consumer problem. And that's something we have been working on by re-educating our kids. So we're trying to teach them that they actually are responsible for their consumption, that they cannot just say, "Þetta reddast," or "this will all work out," because they have to be the ones that supply the food. Especially in a small town, rural environment like here, it's absolutely vital. And for big companies to actually come on the same line as the kids are going on, companies here are realizing that they don't necessarily have enough food security and deliveries to make sure that their workforce can sustain more than 3-4 days of closed roads. They cannot guarantee that they will show up for work on the 5th day, which is extremely serious. But it's something that we're working on. Upscaling the produce that we have is something that already is happening. We are looking into methods of using more and throwing away less. But as I say, it's a generational project. It takes time.
For sure.
Yeah,
So,
and also regarding that, yeah, I was on a committee for the like the first ever Icelandic food policy. We had this question and made some analysis about it. So, but we have enough like food to feed Iceland within the countries. Mm-hmm. But the only real problem is due to energy. It's about fossil fuel, because we still need fossil fuel to harvest from land and from sea. And so, so that is like Gunnar talked about. It's a sustainable question about sustainability, not only for food, it's for energy as well.
Definitely. So, Ingi, would you mind telling us a bit more about LD Aqua, if I pronounce it correctly?
I will try to share my screen. I have made the presentation. Wait for it. Yeah, I think I will. No, here it is. Yeah. Do you see the screen? Wait a minute. You see it? Yeah, sorry. I just recently got involved with one of the projects that Gunnar has been working on, called LD Aqua, which is seaweed farming on the edge of the world, because as you know, the world is flat. So if you go a little bit further, you will fall out. So but nevertheless, it's like, yeah, so seaweed farming has not been done in Iceland before. And coming from a land that is extremely like, yeah, like from a country that is like so dependent on the natural resources, you have to use the natural resources the right way to maximize your opportunity. And fortunately, we in Iceland, we have abundance of natural resources, but it's up to us to use it as carefully as possible. And that is one part of the food loss and the waste like discussions, because you are using more natural resources in an unsustainable way if you are throwing away things. So the question is really like, how can we use the natural resources? And when you have abundance of natural resources, so that's like what we are aiming for. So if I take Iceland, for instance, then we have very clean water. We have enough water for the rest of the world. And to have access to clean water is like, to not have access to clean water is like the biggest risk the world is actually facing, because people need to clean up the water, there's the mineral in the water and such. But over here we have abundance. We also abundance of clean energy. We have like geothermal and hydrogen like energy for like heating up our houses, and now some of the car fleet, but still we are very dependent on fossil fuels. But so, and we have access to hot water, and hot water is both to of course to power the clean energy, and as well to heat up houses, heat up greenhouses and stuff like that. And we still, because of our little pollution, we have relatively pure nature, and we have the image of a pure nature. If you ask a foreigner, what do you think about Icelandic nature, it will probably tell it it's unique and pure. So that's kind of something we can use in as a brand awareness. Yeah, and nevertheless, we have blue oceans. We have a lot of ocean. We have the fjords of Westfjords. We have fjords like all over Iceland except the south part of Iceland. And the blue ocean has been the lifeline in Iceland for exporting. We have been exporting cod for the last centuries and to another market. And even we have the saying, in cod we trust. And we have been fortunate enough to have the fishing like being done like sustainable. And we are even increasing, and we are using science to regarding the sustainability. And just recently we have been having agriculture, and the team from Future of Food to the Climate went to see the agriculture. But we have big grounds to keep. It's the ocean around Iceland. And in the Westfjords, which is the northernmost part of Iceland and the westernmost part of Iceland, and it's very close to the Arctic Circle. So we are based in Bolungarvík, the same town as Gunnar is working out of, and we are setting up a seaweed farming. So why seaweed farming? So for the first part, kelp or seaweed is a huge business. It's a 5 million global $1 million business, and kelp absorb CO2 from the seawater and will fight the climate change. So we are hoping to create a company that are like regenerative. It's not just only like sustainable. It's more than that. It's like it's absorbing and synthesizing like CO2. And seaweed by itself, it grows very fast. It grows much faster than forest, for example. And we are using ropes that can grow up to 40 metric tons per hectare per year. So could seaweed be a solution to climate change? Somehow, yes. And if you do the calculation, if the calculation is right, if you just use the 10% of ocean to farm seaweed, you can safely store 40 gigatons of carbon dioxide per year. That is exactly the same as the world emits on an annual basis. So in fact, we can, and it's a crazy fact actually, you can use seaweed as a part of climate solution and absorbing carbon dioxide. So seaweed farming, it has been done like in countries around Iceland. In Norway alone, we have 180 seaweed farming companies, and they're quite good businesses. And we have as well farming in Canada and west coast of America. Here we are in Faroe Islands, which is our closest neighbor. And there they have like 46 kilometers of line in sea growing seaweed. And the seaweed is grown on line, and it's like very, so it's grown in lines. And can be also like taken from the sea in bulk. Until now, seaweed has been like cut from the seabed, and it's like when you're cutting from the seabed, you are like decreasing the biodiversity, and as well you're it's almost like a cutting of forest. It doesn't have to be. It's much better to grow seaweed for consumption than to cut it from the seabed. So what's the application for seaweed? Here we have a picture. You go from left to right. The seaweed goes into the kelp volume machine. It is washed. It can be used for food and even for beer. If you dry it, you can have fertilizer, animal feed, and even biochar. And you can even use the fiber to have like clothes, and you can have it as well as a fuel and biofuel. And seaweed is extremely good for biofuel. If you go further down the value chain, you can have supplements and pharmaceuticals, cosmetics and plastics. And that's one of the projects that Gunnar is working on, is bioplastics. So seaweed as a food, of course you think about sushi. But the application for seaweed as a food, it has are used in all sorts of foods as an ingredient. So there's a big market for kelp as a food, and it is a superfood. It is has iodine, and it can boost your metabolic state of your body if you have sea kelp or seaweed in your food. And for cosmetics, it's like the landmass from seaweed is very rich. And here we have an Icelandic brand that are using seaweed as the main source of their cosmetic lines. And you can even have like seaweed as a fertilizer. And that is a project that we want to start with Gunnar, working on a liquid fertilizer that can be used in gardening and agriculture. So we are thinking about LD as a seaweed farming as a platform. We want to make others, like if you take this picture, for example, we need to make this picture again just with the button up, because we are making this platform for underwater applications. So if we want to work with other seaweed farmers to Iceland to enhance this business in Iceland, we want to give companies opportunities to make products from seaweed. And as well, we want to create a new export out of Iceland, because we kind of are in need of export, because we cannot produce everything. We still need to buy things from Italy. We need to buy like wheat and such, and we need to buy fossil fuels. We need to buy medicine and other like goods from abroad. So we are still very dependent on export. So we are, so we want to grow our exports in Iceland, and we want to make sure that seaweed is part of the solutions, both in economy matter of things, and as well for the climate change. So that is all I have. Stop share.
Thank you for introducing this. The first thing what came to my mind while listening to all of these solutions and how much potential is in seaweed and sea kelp is we keep talking about food waste and loss, things what we see being wasted, but actually we have so much and so many underutilized resources what we are just starting to discover or rediscover. So I do consider these solutions equally important, if not more, to help us actually use everything what is for our at our disposal, and also create what you said, regenerative systems, because finally we have to stop just deploying our resources. And the numbers what you showed with how much seaweed you would need to actually compensate that CO2 what we emit. It's insane. We keep referring to our for the day when we deplete our resources every year, and thanks to COVID this year, it has been moved to the 22nd of August from the, I think, 19th of July. But if we get back to the previous operations, this day will again get earlier and earlier in the years. So why not invest in these solutions, what we can actually fight climate change with? I wanted to thank you for sharing all this with us and be part of this zero waste global convivium. We have 1.5 hours left before we hand over to FAO and to their assembly. During the next half an hour, I will actually share a project myself, what I would like to start in Hungary. And then we go to the US and close up with one of our climate shaper teams at 3:30, who are actually the winner of our hackathon from the digital bootcamp from July. So let's keep up with all these works where we actually encourage people to connect and work on these ideas, because I believe that we have a cohesive power of food in that sense as well. Gunnar, Ingi, I can't wait for our next gig together. I hope it will be very soon, maybe for the digital bootcamp starting at the end of October. We will see. Thank you again.
Thank you, Julia.
Thanks so much.
We will see you later.
Thanks for
Look
that.
forward to seeing your presentation.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye. So yes, I kind of did a spoiler already. How shall I start, or where shall I start? The idea of Transfood Mission was born actually last year, so it's not even a full year ago. When I went home to my hometown, it's a very small town in Hungary, and I was walking with my dad, and we passed by a building which has been empty for the last 22 years. It used to be an orphanage. And I had this conversation with my dad that we keep actually wasting resources. And that's not only a building, that's not only food, that's also human resources. And how can we maybe change that and actually give life to a town where I grew up in? So before I get too emotional here, I will actually share my screen and show you the very first video we prepared with the idea, and then continue with all the progress we have made since then. And maybe it would be wise if I do that with sharing the audio as well. So let me just start again. I might need to, there we go.
This is Julia. She was born in Hungary, more precisely in the small town of Komárom. Located on the Slovakian border, Komárom is well connected to Budapest, Bratislava and Vienna. It is here where she spent her days in the local kindergarten and primary school. It is also where the now grown-up Julia had the idea for the Transfood Mission. This former orphanage has stood empty for 22 years. This is just one example of the many resources that we waste, be it physical spaces, food, or human resources. This is one of the signals that Julia and her team identified during their 60-day Food Innovation Global Mission. While researching agro-innovation in smart cities, they traveled with 16 international master students and met more than 160 food shapers who tirelessly work to establish a sustainable future of food. Stemming from this intense level of inspiration and a design and systems thinking mindset, an idea was born. To give a second life to the building she already knew so well, a place to stimulate growth and re-energize communities. To help her convert this dream into a reality, she couldn't think of a better team member than her research partner Murray Elphick. As a South African food scientist with experience in upcycling food waste, they fill each other's gaps in knowledge and reinforce each other's strengths. Upcycling food waste is not a new idea, but it remains largely unexplored in the region. Building new connections will be essential in adapting the solution to the local context. That's why a nationwide Italmentu campaign will be created. It will strengthen partnerships with food and beverage manufacturers, retailers, and wholesalers, and allow the Transfood mission to prototype products like ketchup and spent grain granola made from industry-based food surplus. At the same time, we will move around the country educating younger generations, parents and teachers about the value of food while reconnecting them to their food origin. Ultimately, the Transfood mission will operate three main elements. The first will be the Italmentu food waste factory that will collect and upcycle food surplus and byproducts into new consumer products. The second will be the Transfood Mission Central and Eastern European hub that will help to build and serve the European food innovation community. The third and final element will be a nearly 2-hectare food forest designed around introducing sustainability and agriculture into education, feeding school canteens, and reconnecting the community to the true meaning behind their food. We see food as a connection between our past and our future. We eat to connect, cultivate to reinvigorate, and look back so that we might move forward more resilient and better equipped for the world of tomorrow.
Yes, so that was our very ambitious plan at the beginning of the year. And thanks to the global mission, what we also mentioned in the video, and all these events, what we organize with Future Food, we have access to so much knowledge and know-how that we can validate already ideas that can help our food system. So this was the beginning of the year. We have been connecting with people like Toine Timmermans, who spoke 2 sessions ago, to actually identify the difficulties, the challenges, what we would need to overcome. And obviously very fast, we realized that investing in a building, turning it already into a factory, that might be rather a long-term plan. So then what do? You reiterate the idea. And by this May, June, we actually reached a point that we have now a go-to-market strategy, what we also presented on a competition for an innovation prize. Well, we haven't got further yet, but I do believe that after 6 months of idea creation, this is already a pretty good achievement. And that also gave us access to other industry members in Hungary. So that's also part of the reconnection to my roots, getting in touch with all the people who are being active in the food industry in Hungary. So let me share my screen again and tell you a bit more about the new idea or the reshaped idea and what we would like to work on over the next months, and ideally start our first operation at the beginning of next year. So the take-make-waste model of our current linear economy is not putting resources to their best use. Spaces are abandoned, food and byproducts are wasted, human resources are unemployed, and infrastructures are underutilized. 2 million tons of food is wasted in Hungary annually, with 62% stemming from processing and production stages. We at Transfood Mission will collect food surplus and byproducts and transform them into new consumer food products. The Italmentu Alliance will allow all players of the food industry to utilize their resources to the maximum and use raw materials like brewery spent grain, fruits and vegetable skins and seeds or whey to design food products matching consumer needs. Our model aims to directly impact Sustainability Development Goals 9, 11, 12, and 17. Transfood Mission will concentrate on already familiar products. These will be sold through both online and offline platforms under the Italmentu brand. Pricing will focus on increasing consumer access to high-quality, sustainable products that may otherwise be out of financial reach. We will initially target Hungary's 67.7 million euro breakfast cereal market with a spent grain granola product. Our expansion to the functional food space will be possible using the same raw material, followed by entering new categories with further waste streams, for example, bread or vegetable scrapes. Once established in Hungary, we will extend to Austria and Slovakia, where we learn how to adjust the new geographies, and this will allow us to effectively market and sell our unique processes to external groups as well. Now, who are we focusing on? Our most important customer segments are office managers that are looking to feed employees in a way that supports their overall health and well-being. But we, of course, focus on parents and educators that need to feed and satisfy kids at breakfast time by providing them with the necessary nutrition for the day. Also, buyer groups, which are popping up all over Hungary now, that want access to local and interesting products. Last but not least, of course, purpose-driven consumers that want to feel like they can make a difference with their food choices. We will maximize the effectiveness of our marketing through brand partnerships, digital marketing, and influencer marketing. Ételmentő will be built around a mutually beneficial relationship mutually beneficial relationships with waste supplies, where our success means partner success. We believe that the nature of our raw material will help to decrease our production costs and help to increase consumer access to high-quality, sustainable products. Toll manufacturing may result in an increased production cost. However, we expect that our overall cost will be lower than existing sustainable brands due to the reduced raw material cost. And initial consumer tests actually showed that our brewery spent grain granola have already preferred sensory characteristics in terms of crunchiness due to the lower moisture absorption of our product compared to the already available products on the market. The estimated average unit cost of a breakfast cereal market in Hungary is 3.35 euros. Our first product will be priced 3.50 euro, keeping it within the reach of an everyday Hungarian breakfast cereal buyer. We believe that the market share of 2% is possible, considering our value proposition of a sustainable product with only a relatively modest cost increase for consumers. By 2025, we will be able to fill at least half of an average weekly shopping basket due to a bigger product portfolio and increased brand loyalty. Our market share stays at 2% on the Hungarian food market, with a lower or higher presence in certain categories. Within 1 year, we expect to have our first product introduced to the market, followed by our awareness campaign and portfolio expansion from year 2. Our 5-year plan, we will transition to fully circular packaging and have broken ground in our education and production space in Hungary. So here you can still see the relation to the very first and initial ideas. We are a team of food futurists. I'm a Hungarian entrepreneurial project manager, and Murray is a South African food scientist, as you could also hear in the video. We have worked together before and share a lot of common skills. Besides the fact that Murray is a food scientist and brings in all the skills what I am lacking on. We aim to educate consumers, increase access to quality food, revitalize available resources, and translate our growing market presence into monetary success. So what are we looking for? The next steps in our journey will actually testing our products in a lab in Hungary in November, ideally found our company by January next year and start our small-scale production and sell in the first channels. What we are looking for is still a production space for the very first batch, and we are seriously considering to work with special need employees to actually cover all 3 elements of the equation we wanted to have, so also to utilize available resources, human resources. What I am currently looking for is connecting with Hungarian universities and students who are working on similar projects, and they might want to engage in our production. And whoever is interested in hearing more about our idea, I'm very happy to share more information and welcome others on board. So this was my presentation, and I still have a few more minutes before the next session. And I would like to talk a bit more about the digital bootcamps, or the bootcamps what we organize at Future Food Institute and FAO. Because as you could see during the day, we started off with a team who participated on the digital bootcamp, and we will also close the day. And now you know that I also attended one of the educational programs, which actually gave me the tools to ideate and come up with these ideas, also to engage with my local community. So finding a way how to connect with people who are either like-minded or stakeholders who can be involved in your project is not as scary anymore after attending the global mission. This being said, I encourage everyone to check our website, Future Food Academy, and read more about the educational programs we have. The next batch of digital bootcamp will start on the 30th of October, and our applications are open, and we are currently running interviews. So if you, what I can share about the program is that we focus on 4 different tracks, and these are climate smart oceans, farms, cities, and kitchens. So the students from all over the world, very multidisciplinary group, we try to be as inclusive as possible to bring up the diversity of the course. So they will focus on these 4 different areas. And in the meanwhile, we are also creating a learning journey based on the prosperity thinking approach, what the Institute developed over the past years. We have multiple different activities, but we also live broadcast. And here I have to thank all the digital equipments available right now, because without them it would have not been available possible to actually invite all these people into one room right now and hold this presentation and reach such a broad audience what we can on this way. So we try to make use of all of these tools and encourage our students to engage with their local communities using them. So besides local and global discoveries, when we actually help the participants map out their local food shapers, climate shapers, and engage with them, showcase their stories like we did today with all of the other participants. And then we also organized a climate supper. What is a climate supper? Well, it was a full day full with different dining experiences hosted all over the world. So as you could meet Amanda at the beginning of the day today, she was our participant from Indonesia. So we started with her, and she was organizing a huge digital dinner. They were cooking something very local and talking about the topics what we believe has to be talked about, sustainable food systems and how our action has actually an impact. So if you are interested, please go on our YouTube channel and check out the recordings of the digital conviviums we organized with Jose and the Food Alchemist team. I never used banana peels before, but they made me. And I had a very skeptical sister sharing the kitchen with me on that evening. And we had a delicious meal at the end. So I think these platforms are very important to be shared with the broader audience to actually make change. Because as we also identified, a huge amount of food is wasted on the end consumer level. If we don't engage consumers with our mission, with these messages, how are we expecting them to actually change their behavior? In the meanwhile, I just would like to check with my colleagues in the background. How are we on time? And if I should keep talking about the bootcamps. Besides that, I would like to just quickly share the website maybe, so that everyone knows immediately now that I gave you the intro about the digital bootcamp, not that you miss your application. So let me just share the screen. So as I said, I encourage everyone to visit our website, Future Food Academy. The bootcamp is a joint project with the FAO E-learning Academy. Here is a very obvious apply now button. You can also read more about the curriculum and when the different paths if you click on them. So I would like to receive all of your applications over the next days, and can't wait to interview more and more applicants for the digital bootcamp. So now I'm not sure if my colleagues are still listening to me. We are welcoming a very very important person in our ecosystem for the next session, and I know that Sarah will also join us to give the introduction. I haven't had the chance to meet Stephen Ritz in person, because during the global mission I was in Toronto while the other part of the team visited him in the Bronx. He is an amazing leader, and this is what I also believe in, that we have to lead by example, and he's one of the best examples for that. Francesco, are you here with me?
Yes, of course I'm here.
Yes. So I was just wondering if Sarah is maybe arriving, because I think I have Stephen already lining up.
I think that Sarah is arriving. I think that also we can make Stephen enter, and maybe like waiting for Sarah, we can begin like the conversation with Stephen if he's already here.
Yes. Otherwise, I can keep talking. You know, I can entertain myself. It's a bit weird now being alone on the screen, I must say, because I have been talking to at least one person over the matter of the last 7 hours. So yeah, maybe I can let Stephen join and give him a bit of an update on what we have been doing over the past few hours. Hello.
Buongiorno.
Hello and welcome, Stephen. Thank you for joining us. I think Sarah is also connecting just now. So in a few seconds, there we go. Yes.
Buongiorno, Sarah.
Buongiorno, Stephen Ritz. How are you?
Good to see you.
Good. I'm really in a real marathon, because we were in Rome with the European Commission live, the first event live of the season. So we were super excited, and we are connecting people all over the world like you. People making amazing things around the world, and today is a very important day for us because we're celebrating for the first time this day. And actually we started a little bit together, because this marathon started in New York last year in July, when we came also to visit your schools, and you have been, as always, a great source of inspiration for all of us.
Thank you.
So,
grazie.
We wanted to have you with us, sharing what is happening there, and how is the awareness around these issues in New York, and what you do with your kids. How is the restart? These are the greatest challenges we are facing.
Well, I have a lot of interesting news, and it even involves people you know, so I'll wait till we go live and I'll be able to share that with you. You'll be amazed. It's really kind of funny. I got off the phone with you yesterday. I can't believe we spoke yesterday.
We're live. I think
we're live now? Okay,
yes.
we are live now. So remarkably, you know, inspired by our phone call yesterday and some of our mutual friends, including the good doctor, Dr. Robert Graham, we are now looking, I'm getting all kinds of deliveries of shelf-stable items. And what we're going to do is Robert is going to come up with heart-healthy recipes to use all of this food to teach people how to cook. And we're going to get $20,000 worth of food, box it, bag it, create multiple recipes for it, and then go online this week and start teaching people how to use it. And a lot of this food is food that would have never been used otherwise. So we're really excited to be able to do it, to be able to ensure that people are going to make stuff that is tasty, delicious, nutritionally appealing, very high in nutritional content, and ultimately, given all the challenges that we're having here during the pandemic in my community, which is the poorest congressional district in America, where a lot of supermarkets and stores are closed, this could not be more important at this critical time. Did I lose you?
No, I think she...
No, I'm here.
Okay.
But I would love you to appear in our live session. And so I take off my video. So there is just your face in the live session.
Oh, well, thank you. I think I have the perfect face for radio, not necessarily for a live session, but I'm grateful for the opportunity to say hello to everybody. So grazie, grazie, grazie. Thank you.
So today we started very early with Julia and with the team, with Francesco. We started very early in Japan with our colleagues from the Future Food team and starting telling the stories of our climate shapers that are all around the world. And then we started our travel all around the world, really kind of carrying the flame. And then we landed in Italy, where we were together with the European Commission, because last year in July, when we did our event at the UN and when we were there really studying how big is the issue of food loss and waste, and how big is the issue of managing food waste in big cities, how much food is wasted and how many people still need to get access to good nutrients. So when we were there, of course, there were many people working in political bodies that really understood the importance of this day. And this is really one of those examples in which you understand the power of the small one, because together with our ambassador in New York, the ambassador of San Marino, the Republic of San Marino, a tiny, tiny country in Italy, and another tiny country that is Andorra, they really started this journey involving many, many other ambassadors. And at the end of the year, in December, all the countries say, yes, we need to create a day to create awareness around this project. And we strongly believe that the process needs to start from schools, that schools and kids can be really one of the most important starting point of this process of change. And so I think it would be really good to hear something from you and what you do with your kids, and how the Green Blocks machine have been teaching them really how to interact with the values of food. Because growing food, you understand how much care, how much energy, how much resources, many resources you need to grow food. And so you start to love the food you produce and to care about that.
Well, when you love the food you produce or you have an involvement with it, that changes everything. You know, you touched on something so beautiful, talking about, you know, that teeny tiny town in Italy, because I refer to our movement, and it is very much our movement, everyone who's participating today, as something that is hyper connected and hyper local. And I call it glocal, because everyone can make one small change locally that adds up to an enormous tsunami globally. And that's really the goal, to create global change, people who understand the interconnectivity and the intersectionality of ecosystems that really impact all of us. Now, Here, for those of you who don't know, we are 4 stories up in a 110-year-old school building in the middle of public housing. And if you look behind me, we already started planting our food. We've got tons of food growing. Today, the children are still getting put into the building. So this is actually our first day back, but we were here planting in advance. And so many children are disconnected with their food. And what that means is they don't know where food comes from. It comes from the supermarket. It comes from the drugstore. It comes from the gas station. They don't realize that it comes from the ground, that meat is actually a living animal, that nuggets come from chicken. So the closer you get children to the source, the more you develop their empathy and compassion for what they're eating and understanding all about it. Because children are the greatest lever that we have, not only here in New York City and the United States, but around the world for global change. You look at the heroes who are making the biggest impact in the world, whether it be Greta, whether it be Malala, whether it be youth. Youth are at the core of all of this change. And most importantly, when you set the child on a trajectory of good health and good decisions at an early age, that trajectory goes up, up, up of good behaviors, of positive behaviors. So to your point, Sarah, children, are the greatest lever we have, and public education is the greatest lever we have. And honestly, look, big corporations figured that out years ago. The mommy factor, McDonald's, the Happy Meal. People always went after children because children target their parents until they make them crazy. But if we start targeting children with positive behaviors that affect global change and local change and then global change, it is really an opportunity to grow something greater and create these massive concentric circles of success. Listen, every time I change a child's taste, and it's when the child leaves school, instead of buying a cheap hamburger, has a banana, an apple, a piece of locally sourced produce, a piece of fresh fruit and vegetables. Not only am I helping their body and their minds, but I'm also helping the environment. And these are the kinds of changes that really make big, big, big differences. I say this each and every day. We vote with our forks, we vote with our mouths, we vote with our wallets, and hopefully this November, everybody will be voting at the ballot. A separate conversation, but got to put it out there. But that's what this is all about. It's about really empowering people to change themselves and save the planet.
Yeah, definitely, yes. And I think your numbers are pretty inspiring. And I'm saying numbers because, as you know, we are always inspired to do good and we want to change the world. But then you need to show numbers and to show what's the impact of the action you are putting in place. So I think that one of the most interesting things of the Green Bronx machine is the scalability of your project and how you started from the Bronx, really exploding and expanding your idea and your project everywhere. Because I remember, to me and to all of us, the number of schools that are now implementing your system. How many?
So we now touch, this humble little program that started by mistake now touches over 500 schools, 50,000 students a day in 20 states and 5 nations. And we're just getting we're just starting to expand. I sent you, I'm so excited. Next month, we're debuting this movie called Generation Growth that really highlights what can happen when you have a seed and it spreads, so to speak. But we really focused on a couple of things here. Number one, ease of use, ease of technology, putting something in a classroom that could be used all year long, regardless of seasonality, and then really taking the time to create good curriculum. And curriculum that was not only centered on food, because food is very important, but took food and the art and science of growing food and put it at the epicenter of all that school does. The reading, the writing, the math, the science, the communication, the entrepreneurship, the history, the culture. And that changed everything. It literally became, instead of a program where we were talking about growing vegetables and eating healthy, which is very important, it literally linked up to school performance and became a turnkey toolkit for teachers and principals to use to transform results in school and personal health outcomes, which is absolutely the goal of all that we want to do. But make no doubt about it, I say this all the time, and for many communities in the United States and around the world, the most important school supply in the world is food, especially if you don't have it. So what we eat and how we feed our children determines everything in life, now more than ever. You know, food is the language through which society reveals itself. Who has access to what, when, where, how, and at what price point determines everything. And, you know, I believe that good food is a basic human right. And that once children understand what food does for their body, it's not just about tasting good. And sadly, we've celebritized and marketed food, that food becomes a way you brand yourself rather than the way you nourish yourself. So if we get back to nourishing ourselves and our bodies and our communities and understanding that the purpose of food is nourishment and community, wow, that's game changing. And quite frankly, this crisis, this pandemic, if you will, is the perfect opportunity to bring families and people together around the table. Because remarkably, our homes have become classrooms. Our kitchen tables are the new classrooms. So the opportunity to feed ourselves properly and really build an immune system is absolutely critical now more than ever.
Data actually are saying that during the pandemic, during the lockdown, at least in Europe, where we have been running several surveys, have been, changing so much the approach of people related to food. Also related to the management of the food in the different kitchens or in the fridge. And 93% of people are declaring that they are wasting now almost nothing, because for the first time, they started really understanding what's the huge damage they are creating wasting food. So I'm wondering, do you think that this is going to be something that is going to be a long-lasting attitude? Do you think that kids also have been changing during the lockdown? I know that you are reopening schools, but not completely, but you are always surrounded by kids everywhere you go. So I'm sure that you can give us some insights, because we strongly believe that school is always the starting point. So it's interesting from my perspective to understand that.
Listen, school is always the starting point. Children have parents, but teachers are what I say are loco parentis, the second set of parents. Make no doubt about it, this community has seen an absolute shortage of food. So when there is little food, you really start to value what you have and see the significance of it. It's oftentimes not until crisis that we appreciate what we did have. So it's an opportunity for us to redirect what we're doing. Also, this is perhaps the greatest moment to understand, let food be thy medicine and let thy medicine be thy food. Here in the epicenter of the pandemic in the United States, where we have seen so much death, so much disease, and so much illness, understanding and really, beginning to implement the notion that eating healthy food is the best way you can build your immune system really has a cause and effect in communities where we're seeing people die daily. The death toll here is staggering. And to think that we can reverse that with good, responsible behavior and healthy nutrition really drives the whole notion of what food is. Now, remarkably, and as you well know, I'm proud, I'm sitting here next to my wife. We've now rescued this summer 2 people, over 100,000 pounds of food that would have gone either unused into landfill, into waste streams, but more importantly, has gone into people's bellies, has fed their bodies and their minds. So the pandemic has forced a new sense of resourcefulness to capture food, to look at ways of accessing food, and most importantly, how we distribute it. literally, Sarah, you've been here, so you know, but 2 blocks up from the school, we are distributing 2,300 meals a day, daily, and we've figured out how to do it. Along the way, a lot of it comes from, desperation, but desperation can also be the mother of invention. And along the way, by getting that healthy food out, we've reduced the footprint that it travels. We've gotten the access points closer. We have forged better relationships with local foods and local ecosystems that are ultimately going to be far better for the planet. The one thing that's really interesting to see in the evolution of the pandemic is that small food, local food, and knowing your farmer has become more important now than ever, because people are afraid of germs, they're afraid of illness, they're afraid of disease, they're afraid of pesticides, they're afraid of chemicals. So really knowing your food, localizing your food, and having an accountability about it, that's great for the planet, it's great for humans, and quite frankly, it's great for the economy, because it's really generating local economies and local entrepreneurs. I'm so proud to share that even though there are tremendous food challenges in New York City and across the nation and around the world, we are seeing a new kind of entrepreneur develop. And that entrepreneur is largely as close to the traditional bottom of the food chain as possible. So we're seeing all kinds of new business people emerge. And while I'm very interested in philanthropy, what you're really opened up this conversation with, talking about politicians and policy, is where it's at. Because my goal, as I head into the next, I would say, quarter of the next phase of my career, will really move from being about philanthropy and far more towards policy and change. And I will tell you why. Philanthropy is wonderful. Philanthropy will send bottles of water and emergency food aid to Michigan and Flint, where people don't have food and water. But policy change and law will ensure that those people have clean water into perpetuity, and people who violate that will be locked up. And that's the real answer. The real answer is comprehensive change. So I'm hoping that this moment leads us to a movement where we don't get back to normal, but instead get to better. And that, the values that have brought us to this point, really, it should come as no surprise. For years, so many people were singing the songs, the alarm bells were going off. And now, because there's a pandemic, we're now awake to the issues of racism, of poverty, of class. This pandemic, if you will, has really become an X-ray into society of what our priorities are and what they are not. And the pandemic is simply an X-ray into the larger illness of greed, corruption, and racism. But now that it's exposed, now that it's there, you are really seeing such a wonderful movement to people talking about it, challenging it, and really not wanting to get back to a system that worked very well for a select few and did not work well for so many more, but to something that is far more equitable, just, compassionate, and beneficial to everybody. So here in school, I say, let compassion be the new curriculum, and we are about education, not asphyxiation, and growing something greater so that all of us can breathe. New York City should not be a place where only the strong survive, but New York City should be a place where everyone can thrive. And that is the calculus of our advocacy, not to be our brother's keeper, but to be our brother's brother, not to see other people get fat off the dysfunction of society and urban expansion, but collectively grow something greater so that all of us can thrive and all of us can be included. Let empathy, compassion, and opportunity and equity be our North Star here. And that, that to me is what this is all about. It's a journey. It's not a final destination, but we are getting increasingly closer. I'm thrilled to see the impact of the Black Lives Matter movement on highlighting the issues of the inequity that has been part and parcel of our society and societies around the world for so long. This is really a great opportunity. I'm proud to see the next generation of people stepping up talking about not only equality, but equity and justice, and removing those systemic barriers that prevent justice and allow access and opportunity for all.
I love how engaging you are always. Relating to the policy question, today we had multiple conversation about how different policy making are completely operating in silos. So it's not only in our food system that we operate in silos, but also in policy making. So food information policy has nothing to do with food safety policy, and then has nothing to do with policies regarding agriculture, has nothing to do with policies about healthcare. And that disconnect, how are we imagining consumers to understand in this madness if even policy making is completely independent from each other? Do you see, so what will be your approach? Because if you are shifting towards that, I would like to know how we can be those advocates and make that change happen.
Well, you know, for me, it all starts with transparency. So really being honest, being forthright, and bringing children as close to the source of information as possible. Sarah has been a wonderful champion of that. I love visiting her with Italy and getting out to the schools. But the closer you bring children to the farm where they can grow food, or to the butcher shop and ask them to kill the food, the more they are understanding all the inputs and consequences involved. That to me, you know, is the biggest piece. It is just really transparency. The next thing that's really exciting to me is that I think, you know, listen, we are going to have to reinvent our economies. And in many regards, the economy has taken such, because it's worked so well for so few for so long, but now there is chaos. And I am really excited about the notion of what I call blended communities. And instead of having, for example, a restaurant row in Manhattan, where there are 100 high-end restaurants back to back to back to back to back, the notion of embedding nonprofits, NGOs, startups, innovation spacers, right alongside places that have become abandoned, really creates an opportunity to grow something greater, to rethink the integration and equity we build into our communities. The commercial real estate collapse is going to be an incredible opportunity to rethink urban farms, to rethink putting schools in great neighborhoods because the real estate is now available, traditionally for low-income people who never had access to it. So if we really start thinking about society as a whole, instead of me, we are going to get to a better place. And that's really the kind of policy and advocacy and change I'm looking to see. But where does it start? It starts with children, and it starts with food, and it starts in schools. And it has to teach children that, listen, my role in life is not to give my quarter or my 50 cents or the least amount of money possible for the crappiest food possible, because cheap food is so damn expensive. It's teaching children what food is, what it does to their body, what it does to their mind, and that if they take control of this, they don't have to sit there and hand their money through a window to wind up with health problems 20 and 30 years later. They can take ownership of this and design a healthier community, a healthier life, and a healthier opportunity for themselves along the way.
Thank you, Stephen. I think we need you to raise your voice at the policy level.
I'm coming. I'm running for office. That's going to be the next move, Sarah. And you and I will discuss that when I get to see
president.
Well, anybody for president right now, except the present president. But hopefully that will change. And if not, shame on us.
Unfortunately, we cannot vote for you. So we're just going to be here waiting.
Well, you can vote for me, Sarah. I'll tell you why.
I'm voting every day with my fork. I'm voting every day with my fork.
But I'm going to get you a link to the film festival, and you can vote for our film to win the People's Choice. And I will get you that link, and we can get it out. Yep.
Thank you so much. Stephen, it's been great to have you with us. Now our marathon is almost ending because just in half an hour, the official celebration with the Secretary General of the United Nations, and all the institutions are going to start the big celebration connecting FAO and the New York United Nations. And so we have been really, really happy to become the teaser of this incredible day. And of course, having you with us has been really a great gift.
It is my honor. Mwah.
Thank you so much.
Love
you so
to everybody.
much.
And remember, you vote with your mouth, you vote with your fork, you vote with your wallet. And if you're an American, you better get out and vote this November, or I'm gonna beat you on the head with some broccoli.
Thank you,
Thank
Steve.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna leave because I gotta get downstairs.
That's okay. Thank you so much. We are about to welcome the other speakers now. Thank you for joining us.
No, thank you, Julia. Always good to see your face. Be well.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So in the meanwhile, I think I already have few of the people in the room. So guys, if you don't mind, you can maybe join me on the screen with your camera and microphone on till we wait for the rest of the team to arrive. Hi.
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 How is it going?
Hi again, Julia.
Hi again. Yes, you're my last session for today before the FAO ceremony kicks off. It has been a very long day. I don't know if you had a chance. I mean, Gesina, I know you just woke up. It's super early for you. So I assume you didn't see any of the live sessions till now. But we had very interesting conversations. I see Nikhil is also joining. And
I did tune in, and it was really cool. It's really nice, like the spectrum that you covered.
Yes, definitely. I'm also very happy. Different solutions. And Arina, you are already, I'm pretty sure that you will receive a few requests for connecting because people were very interested in the recipes, what you showcased. Are we also waiting, expecting Connie to join? Yes.
Also, Julia, did you get the Loom link?
Yes, and that I did download. So that's the other thing I have to quickly prepare before I hand over the stage to you. So why not we do the following? I will now just switch off my microphone and maybe you guys can introduce yourself and tell how you met on the digital bootcamp and your experiences while we wait for Komi, and then we can go on with the video.
Yeah, I think I think Komi mentioned that he has the big meeting with his company and his manager to talk about this next strategy. So I think he might not be joining.
Okay.
Right?
All right. So then maybe you just do a quick introduction round and I get the video ready.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think most of the intros is actually in the video. So I don't want to take too much away.
Okay, then don't introduce yourself, please. Maybe you just tell people how amazing experience you had during the digital bootcamp in July. So they will be encouraged to apply for the next batch.
Yeah, I think for all of us, well, at least for myself, it was such an interesting build up to the hackathon. And then I think, there was such a nice pace of learning to the boot camp. And then the hackathon hit, and it was, I think, 3 of the most intense days that I couldn't even have imagined. And that was really fun. There was nothing that I didn't like about it, even though I don't think any one of us got more than a few hours sleep that weekend.
Yeah, I think it was this interesting mixture of learning different classes of kind of looking at different perspectives of the food system, on the agricultural food system, but also on society, ethics, innovation. I really enjoyed the design thinking part that we had in the first week. And what I especially liked was to not only think about the user as the focus in the design, but also the planet. So really thinking broader about sustainability. And then I would say the highlight was definitely working with this group, with this team over the weekend and just honing our idea out that we still want to share with you today.
Yeah, I think it was an amazing experience connecting with people like all over the world. Virtually, it's a new thing for me, at least, because I've always been in the kitchen. But it things kind of came full circle for me because I've known Adrian for about 7 years or maybe more. I attended a workshop that she taught on urban farming, like kitchen gardening, and I've known her since then. And we kind of were in each other's social media and this and that on and off, and we kind of did meet like on an average like 2 years later and 3 years later. So like this feels like a full circle for me where I'm actually like working with her, because I used to chew her brains all the time saying, listen, I want to do something with you. Like the amount of texts I must have sent her over the years and emails saying, listen, I need to do something with like farm produce. I need to do something with you.
Well, I think what's crazier is that we like met on this online platform where we could have been anywhere in the world, and that's what ends up connecting us the most on a project. And then now we live 10 minutes away from each other also. So that's kind of incredible.
I really enjoyed learning all these new things. I had no idea the diversity of knowledge that exists within agriculture and how people are practicing it from Iceland to South Africa to Japan. It was really, really fun. And the fact that, 2 months later, we're actually working on this, trying to realize this into a real opportunity, that should tell you how valuable it was.
Thank you. And also I would like to highlight that both Nikhil and Gesina did write down some thoughts about their experience, what are available. I bet they can find it through your social media accounts, mainly LinkedIn, right? Very good.
Yeah.
So now I think I will share my screen and we start with the video. Yes.
Yeah. Sounds great. Hi, everyone. I'm Adrian from Utangi. At Utangi, we don't see food waste as a problem. We see it as an opportunity. Most of us here today have heard again and again that 24 to 36% of produce is wasted globally. To us, that means we have at least 30% of food available right now. That's 30% more valuable resources sitting right in front of us. And when we refer to food waste, we mean unused produce on farms before it reaches a consumer. Unused because it's in surplus, unused because it didn't meet industry standards, and unused because it's something people didn't even know they could have used. So if food waste is an opportunity, what can we do with it? At the core of our idea is the repurposing of food waste into nutritious products made by farm workers. To do this, we will build connected community kitchens in farming areas that serve as educational and production centers for farm workers. We'll go into the details of this a little later. Over the next 15 minutes, you will learn about Utangi, the opportunity we see with food waste, our vision, and our pilot project that's underway. We have 10 minutes afterwards for questions, so please add them to the chat for the moderator. And we're really looking forward to discuss this all with you and dive deeper into the topic. The 5 of us that make up Utangi's core team met at the Food and Climate Shapers Bootcamp, organized by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations and the Future Food Institute. Individually, each of us have on-ground experience in the areas of regenerative agriculture, fair trade, systems thinking, repurposing food waste, and community mobilization. 3 out of 5 of our team are based in India, so that's where we really focused our attention. When we came together, we were still thinking about food waste as the problem to solve. But as we explored the underlying problems behind wasteful food systems, we realized there was an elephant yam in the room that no one was talking about. The elephant is the farm worker. The world over, farm workers are the poorest of the poor, and around 80% of the farm workers in developing countries are women, including in India. So this was more like a big female elephant herd, and still no one was talking about it. From the elephant yam plant, only a part is harvested, leaving its nutritious leaves to rot. And this is similar to female farm workers who are milked for their labor while their whole value is truly ignored. That is why we see a big opportunity in repurposing nutritious food that is currently rotting and providing opportunity to female farm workers who are currently exploited. To understand how we can do that, we want to share with you what keeps female farm workers from being able to change their circumstances today. These insights vastly stem from my own experience working for the past decade in the agriculture sector in India. I saw that many female farm workers were struggling, and I even heard them say that they feel forgotten. They feel this way for a variety of reasons. In most cases, female farm workers are earning below the poverty line. The little they make is usually not controlled by them. Often their salaries go directly to their husbands, and they have little agency over how their earnings are spent. They have no access to training or upward economic mobility, which increases their concern about not being able to support their children's needs. For all of us, this is an unacceptable reality, and it forced us to think differently. Fortunately, there is a way to tackle this, and it starts by investing in women. The FAO found that investing in female farm workers actually has tremendous impacts. And when we invest in women, they are much more likely to spend their earnings on nutrition, the health and care of their families, and schooling for their children. So everyone starts to benefit. So instead of seeing farm waste as something to be eliminated or reduced, we see it as nutrients and money that already exist in the food system, that can be put to a better purpose by also addressing the fundamental issues of female farm worker exploitation. We can enable them to use the surplus food and make nutritious, valuable food products. Now, on our team, we're very lucky that we have an experienced chef who has been repurposing food waste for years, and she's been making it into wonderful meals. And we're excited to show you some of the examples of what we know female farm workers will be able to do. So we have okra. Most of us have eaten okra, but I didn't even know that you could eat the leaves and the stem. And it's actually a much needed source of iron and calcium. So here she's turned it into a chutney, but you could also make it into a pesto. That elephant foot yam we showed you earlier, it actually grows abundantly during the monsoon. The root can be turned into gluten-free noodles, while the leaves can be dehydrated and used as a nutritious and fibrous addition to soups and curries. So how will the female farm workers prepare these foods? At the heart of our solution is the community kitchen. Utangi sets up community kitchens in peri-urban farming areas. The kitchens act as a platform to upscale female farm workers in better farming, nutrition, and other life skills. Based on their training, they co-create nutritious products with chefs, nutritionists, and other experts. The community kitchen purchases the farm waste from area farms, often the same farms the female farm workers are working at. The farm workers then turn the waste into nutritious products. Utangi is responsible for the marketing and sales and sets up a feedback loop connecting the consumers to the kitchen. The earnings are managed and distributed by the members of the community kitchen. Most importantly, we really envisioned the community kitchen becoming a safe space for women to come together, have fun, and develop personally and professionally. Utangi is responsible for getting the community kitchens off the ground, upskilling the farm workers through trainings and workshops, and providing personal and professional support to them. Utangi also works with the farm workers to develop the products and takes responsibility for product testing and sales. Utangi will also ensure the farm workers are able to at least double their current income. So let me tell you a story now and invite you to spend the next 2 minutes hearing about what the life of Sanjana could be. This is Sanjana, and she lives outside Mumbai in the farming community of Alibag. She joined the Utangi program in her locality about 6 months ago. And she looks forward to her shift at the community kitchen every week, where she works with a chef from the city to test out new recipes and product ideas. She enjoyed the farming workshops at the beginning of the program, mostly because they reminded her of her grandmother, who always composted and would talk about the importance of keeping the soil alive. Sanjana was surprised, though, to realize that she most enjoyed the nutrition classes. She knows this knowledge is helpful in her own life because she wants her children to eat well and grow up strong. The classes were taught by an Ayurvedic doctor and a nutritionist who conducted the lessons via video call, which was a completely new experience for Sanjana and very different from the classes she remembered from her time in school. This month, Sanjana worked with Utangi to secure her farming contract with the farmer she works for. And she's feeling confident that her time is being better spent. She no longer has to be on the farm all day, waiting around for something to do. Instead, she goes when needed according to her new work schedule. Today, she has to go check on the okra for pests, and she'll prepare natural pest sprays if there's any infestation. She will also report back to the community kitchen on how the crop is coming along, since after harvest, all the okra stems and leaves will be purchased by the kitchen to make and to be added to a vitamin-rich baby food that they've been developing. A few weeks later, Sanjana and Lakshmi, also from the community kitchen, go together to collect the 100 kilos of okra leaves and stems that are now left at the farm. They bring along a few volunteers from the city who've come to the community kitchen to learn about farming. Sanjana thinks it's funny that people volunteer to do this work, but she loves how many questions they ask her and that she can actually help them understand how to set up their own kitchen gardens back home in the city. It's a few days later, and the okra leaves have been transformed into what everyone agrees is a surprisingly tasty baby food. It's packed and it's ready for delivery. A group of farmers in the area share a truck every week to take produce directly to the city. And Sanjana normally doesn't leave the village, but today she decides she wants to join on the delivery run. She finds the journey really peaceful, sitting on the new transport boat that shuffles people between Alibag and the port in Mumbai. When they get to the city, she is met by an Utangi partner, and together they take the delivery to an NGO's office. This particular batch of baby food is going to an NGO that supports women from low-income backgrounds with newborn babies. The NGO director asks Sanjana if she can stay and help answer some questions. The women pay a lot of attention to her when she speaks, and she tells them about the health benefits of the food. When she's done, everyone thanks her for the work she is doing. The NGO director shares with her their new plan to provide a midday snack to child daycare centers. And Sanjana is excited to share this information with the Utangi team, who are always up for a new client, since they still see so much produce going to waste on the farms. On the boat ride back, Sanjana feels genuinely satisfied with the work she is doing. And while she'd still like to earn a bit more money, for the first time in a long time, she feels like everything in her life will be all right. Now, this was just a story, but we are committed to making it a reality. And we'll know it's happening when farm workers' income has increased, when food waste is optimally used, when we have better quality of life for female farm workers, and improved nutrition of the Utangi food customers. But the most exciting part for us right now is that we can already see our vision taking shape, and we can see the pieces coming together. We already have our first farm partner, and the community kitchen outside of Mumbai has been built. It's just missing appliances. On our core team, we have a chef that specializes in repurposing food waste. And we have an Ayurvedic doctor and nutritionist who's ready to provide the workshops to our farm workers. We also have a children's care institute in Mumbai that's home to 60 girls that would like to be our first customers. We also still have a lot left to do. We need to finalize the first year program and curriculum. We need to secure funding for the startup phase of the community kitchen. We have to start recruitment of the first cohort of women for the winter season. And we have to continue to build the diverse network that will make Utangi possible. And so that's really where you come in. If you believe that farm workers can be the change makers that we need to invest in, and that farm waste holds endless opportunities, please join us in India or wherever you are as we put all these ideas to the test. The time really has come to build a better food system that we can all be proud of. Because at that most basic level, we all want to nourish ourselves from a system that values people and planet, and also elephant yams, and especially farm workers. Thank you so much, and we are really looking forward to hearing your thoughts now.
Well done. Super great overview of the project, and I am so excited to hear that you already have a place where you just need appliances and you can actually kick off. So it's getting more and more tangible. So I wanted to ask, what is your timeline, let's say till the end of this year?
Good question. I would say we were talking in 6 months chunks, but this team is moving super fast. So I don't know, what are you guys thinking?
I think if we get, sorry, Nikhil, please continue.
The two elements that sort of define how our timeline would work. The first, this is going to happen over the next 6 to 8 months, no matter what. If we get more investment faster, the timeline reduces. But the second factor that definitely affects the timeline is seasonal, because we are looking at a harvest cycle. Depending on the crops and depending on the land, we will have different timelines for different spaces, different parts of the country, but they will all be, they'll all happen over the next year, hopefully multiple times.
Amazing. So you have multiple stakeholders who, with some of them you already have contact with, and some you will still need to check on. And you also mentioned that you will have a few volunteers. So how do you think the model will be sustainable, also from like financial perspective? And how do you see the roles of these volunteers in the project?
Right now,
okay, sorry. I think there's a few ways for financial sustainability that we're thinking about. But really at the core of the idea is that at these community kitchens that we're building, where we're upskilling farm workers, they will be able to prepare these very nutritious products in various forms. Some of them we showed in the presentations, like chutneys and pestos, under Arena's chef expertise and product development. And then we'll bring them to market. And there's, I think, two opportunities in the market that we're discussing and that we really would like to explore further. One is more that hipster market, that consumer that really wants that connection to the farm, and actually could also be a volunteer to further increase that connection, which would be ideal. So we can not only sell it in the cities to these people, but we actually say, hey, come and see what we're doing. We don't just want to be this product on the shelf. We really want to be a movement that people can become a part of. So through the products, I think we also would find recruitment for the volunteers. And the other very interesting opportunity is through a connection that Adrienne already has, which is really thinking about who needs these nutritious products the most. And when we look at urban areas, there's also a lot of malnourishment and undernutrition. So because we're able to repurpose surplus food, we can produce this food at a lower price point, and we can sell it to schools and childcare places and other organizations, NGOs that are in need of very nutritious foods. I think we mentioned in the presentation, baby food is also a great example, supplementing baby food. And that could be a very interesting channel because there are funds available to buy these nutritious foods, and we could really tap into that market.
Yeah, just to add to what Jacinta was saying, there are a bunch of other places where we can raise awareness as well as some financial incentives is through online classes, because now there is, in a group of women, there is skill that has been imparted. Now imagine hundreds of thousands of these community kitchens all over the world. There is definitely a space for interconnection and network, and a lot of value that can be generated. I'm sure there are ways to create financial and intellectual value from those networks as well.
That brings me to the point of the curriculum or the workshop structure, what you would like to offer. Is that something what you still need resources for? Do you have the skill set already on board to run these workshops on your own, or do you have a partner who you can work with on this?
Definitely in terms of the farming part, either we have the skills on our team and we also have a lot of people who want to support. In terms of the chef skills and a lot of the ideas in the creation, we also have Arena on the team for that. And so I would say there's some services that may be required where we would still look for partners for sure, especially in some of the, say, life skills, or if there are any services that when we get to know the farm workers better that they're requesting, or any needs that pop up, we would definitely need support from other experts, specialists, or organizations on those issues, wherever they may be. And I think we definitely, as part of our first phase, our startup phase, we do need support, financial support, to help support the development of this curriculum.
I think having somebody from a financial background to be able to educate these women of how they can allocate their resources, or what they can do with the income that they're making, that sort of knowledge. Somebody from a medical background to teach them better, healthcare for themselves first, so that if their health is in good condition, that is the only way they'll be able to actually do the physical work at the farm or the kitchen and take care of their families. So somebody from a medical background. We already have a nutritionist who's been very kind to offer her services from the nutrition, but even like just medical care and healthcare, if we can get support on that front, even if it is the doctor who's willing to go in once a month to give the women and their kids and their families the checkup.
I really like the fact that you are basically creating a hub, with mentioning that it will be a safe place for women. And so it's not only a kitchen at the end, what you are creating there, but it will be a platform for people to engage, feel safe, and learn. So I have one last question, and I am super excited to actually follow you on this journey in the future. And that's about the relation between farm. So your role in this whole equation, right? Because you have a farmer who has the contract with the farm worker. You have a kitchen. Is it owned by the farmer? Is it a separate entity? And then all the stakeholders. So how is Utangi's role, being this orchestrator, mapped out, basically?
Who wants to take this one?
Yeah, go for it.
I guess one part of it is that we're actually still exploring what our full scope will be and what it will have to be. So to give an example, we know that a lot of the women who are employed on farms right now, their time is not fully utilized. And so there is a lot of scope in the kind of informal contracts, and these are mostly verbal agreements they have with whoever's employing them. There's a lot of scope to have their time be used properly, and there's definitely a lot of need for them to have a formal contract. Now, we don't know if we'll be able to go in and negotiate that and have the farmer agree to these terms, or if that's something we'll have to take responsibility for eventually. Like, could we even employ them ourselves and then offer can you kind of set the benchmark for a farm worker contract from there and start it that way? So that's a lot of stuff that we're still exploring, what's going to be the best way forward, as one of the areas that we still don't know if we'll take responsibility for that. Also in terms of financing for, say, community kitchens, I know there are a lot of different options we're still also exploring, whether it's taking a loan that will be paid back and we have a kind of solid business model that will help with that, whether there's grants, whether there's some kind of charity component or not. We're really looking for these to be as self-sustaining as possible, but we're still very much exploring those models.
I mean, that's completely fine, given the fact that the idea was born beginning of August and we're here end of September, and you are already having a location and progressing very fast. So is there anything else what you would like to share before I wrap up and close this mad zero waste global convivium?
Sure. Waste less food and definitely try elephant foot yams.
Yep. Yeah.
Yes, I would like to, especially after I just heard the product without seeing the picture the other day. So yes, I'm very interested in those noodles, what you mentioned.
They're called shirataki noodles. Look them up.
Yeah, and I think what really sticks with me too is to not see as food waste as this big problem, which in a way it is. I mean, we can't just accept that there's so much waste on farms in different parts, but we are so focused on the farm level. But switch that around and think about, okay, we have this food waste, really consider it as an opportunity to solve for, and then it becomes an opportunity, and there's even more energy already in putting it that way. So yeah, just that positivity and what we can do with it, I think, is something that I'd like to share, and for everyone to look at food waste not as the big problem only.
And carrying on from that, I think for me, one of the big experiences and the lessons from this was not to shy away from problems and lots of problems and more problems. And it's okay to let the idea get bigger and not to stop. Like, once we saw what food waste could do, then it's like, how many things can we solve with this? Okay, we can maybe earn more money, but could we also improve nutrition? Could we also do this? Could we also change the standard of how farm workers are treated? And I think what's been exciting is not shying away, continuing to keep understanding the problem deeper and deeper and deeper, and actually only being more excited at the way it seems like you can solve one thing and then that will actually make something else better. It opens a new problem, but solve for that. So don't be shy about trying to tackle a lot.
Yes, I feel we have to change our dictionary a bit and eliminate the word waste or problem and then consider them as different.
As food, it's literally just food. Just call it food.
Yes, very good. Thank you so much for sharing this last moment with me. And now, without any further ado, I would like to thank everyone who participated on this 8-hour half marathon. Let's call it half marathon. We have heard about so many different solutions focusing on food waste and loss reduction or even prevention. And I know that there are many, many more out there. We couldn't cover everything going on. And this is something that is very, very encouraging and gives me a very optimistic feeling for the near future. So this event has been organized with the representatives of the European Commission. So I would like to thank, besides the Future Food Institute, also the FICO Foundation and the E-learning Academy of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. Furthermore, Spreco Zero, which I assume is zero waste, Waste Watcher, and I think that was it. So thank you everyone for being here today, and I can't wait to have the next session like this on maybe a different topic in our food system. And of course, everyone sign up for the next digital bootcamp starting on the 30th of October.
And Julia, thank you for being there all day for everybody.
Yay! Right. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.